Hello, farmers, and welcome to this episode of the harvest season. My name is Al,
I'm Micah.
and we're here today to talk about farming games. Woo!
Yay. Always a fun time talking about farming games.
Yes. 2 episodes in a row, Micah. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on to discuss anything farming or otherwise.
And this is going to be especially fun because this episode we're going to talk about Sturdy of Seasons, Pioneers of Olive Town. And I can't decide whether to say we're going to try our best not to mock Harvest Moon One World while doing it, or if we're just not going to try and not do that, and it will be a compare and contrast. I don't know.
You know, it's been a good palate cleanser, I guess. So
Yes,
it's hard to not draw comparisons, I think.
it is. It is. I think it's important that we take this game on its own merits, so that we're not just saying this is good because the last one was bad and this is not that.
Right.
So we need to make sure that we're still being, harsh on it when we can. But yeah, that is where we're coming from. We have spent the last 4 weeks playing a terrible farming game followed by a not terrible farming game. So
Yes.
this should be a much more positive episode than the last one.
Yes. I agree.
But-
You gotta sometimes you just gotta get it all out. Well, you can. And sometimes you just really need to get some negativity out too, just that maybe you're bottling up, and we were able to do that with Harvest Moon One World.
Yeah, definitely. But before we've got to all that, we'll need to go through the news. But first of all, Micah, what have you been playing?
Monster Hunter. I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter. I did regretfully go back and finish the story for Harvest Moon One World.
What did you think?
I was very close to after we talked about it, I realized how close I was to the end.
Yeah.
And because it's such a linear game, I was like, I'm going to really struggle if I don't just finish it.
Yeah.
Before I delete it off of my hard drive entirely. It's it was not great. It was maybe not worth the few hours, the couple more hours it took to get me to finish the game.
You can certainly finish it pretty quickly. From the only thing that I think took me time with what you had left was that the sheep, which obviously I gave you the heads up on. So what if you're dealing with that while you deal with the other bits, it's very quick. If you get to that point and then realize it's like a month in game before you can do the next part of the story.
Right.
So that's fun.
Yeah, I appreciate that tip because I was in the desert when we recorded, so I just grabbed a sheep and brought it with me, and that was that. I think there was something else that took a little bit more time. Oh, I hadn't developed enough at one point when I'm assuming nobody cares about spoilers for Harvest Moon One World.
It's probably not story spoilers though. It's just mechanic spoiler. Like there's not really story to spoil.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so I don't know. You can edit this out if you want, but the when you have to summon the harvest goddess.
Oh, yeah.
There's a specifically it's strawberry jam that you're supposed to give, like to offer up or whatever. And I did not have the relationship developed enough with a specific
to get the
NPC
recipe,
to get the cart to get the recipe.
Yeah.
So I had to do that, which was like not terribly long.
Yeah.
To do because there's so little to do on a daily basis in that game that the day cycle is pretty quick. But that was the only thing that I had a little bit of trouble with. But then I got to the end and I was like, oh, I can I know that you had said it was really easy to get married, and you get the big farm at the end, and I did like maybe a couple days of farming and a couple days of trying to woo somebody for marriage, and then I gave up and moved on.
It's hard
Because
to
at
do it
that
when
point,
you've already done the podcast. I was like, I must
right.
get through this because I want to know what it's like for the podcast. But
Yeah.
when it's already done.
Yeah, and at that point too, much better game experiences were available to me,
Yeah.
so it was hard to really keep my interest beyond just finishing rolling the credits.
2 of the games you most want to play from the entire year came out within a week.
They did.
So,
as has been the case for some reason in the last couple of years, there's always a couple of the games that I really want to play that happen at the exact same time.
Typical.
Last year, I think, was Friends of Mineral Town and Animal Crossing were like within a week or two of each other.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
Yeah.
I have not been back to Friends of Mineral Town, I think, since the podcast that we did for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't as much either. I booted it up recently just a little bit, just to kind of, while I was waiting for Pioneers of Olive Town to drop, I booted it up. But still, my favorite Switch Story of Seasons is the Doraemon. I mean, obviously, Friends of Mineral Town has a soft spot for me, but the Doraemon Story of Seasons is just very nice to look at.
2 years ago, there were no Story of Seasons on the Switch, and now there are 3.
Yep. It's amazing.
It's quite crazy how quickly that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been playing though. Story of Seasons.
Cool.
I finished Harvest Moon One World, and then I have been playing a lot of Monster Hunter.
Makes sense.
And that's basically it. I've actually moved on from my daily Animal Crossing. I do maybe like a couple times a week now instead of daily.
Wow.
And I have replaced that daily game task with Story of Seasons. So
fair enough.
That's been nice. What have you been playing?
I think mostly just Story of Seasons.
Yeah.
I've been trying to plow as much time as possible into it. I might calm down a little bit now that we've done the podcast, but I will. I think, did I do any Harvest Moon after the podcast record? I don't think I did. I think
you were pretty adamant about getting rid of it as soon as possible.
When we finished it, I was like, I'm off to sell it. And I think at that point, I popped it out of the Switch. I put it in its case. And and less than a week later, I had money instead of it. I'm not kidding. Like, literally, it's gone. I've sold it already. And I have bought a bunch of other games instead. I actually went on a clearing out spree of games that, let's be honest, I'm not going to play. So I got rid of a couple of old. I'm building up my collection of Pokemon spin-off games. So a few years ago, I completed my collection of the main series games. So I've had that for quite a while. And so I'm building up my collection of spin-offs. So I bought.
Oh, cool.
I bought Snap. And I'm sure I will make a funny tweet about that on April 30th. And I bought Stadium because apparently I didn't have a copy of Stadium.
Gotcha.
Bought the Ruby and Sapphire pinball.
Oh, yeah.
I have the original pinball. I didn't have that one. And what else did I buy? Oh, I bought the Switch Mystery Dungeon. So we'll see what that's like. Yeah. And there was one more.
No Pokemon typing adventure?
No, that's way down the list. I'll get it eventually. But Battle Revolution.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was like, there's literally like one game the Pokemon game for the Wii that I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna just complete that collection now. That's nice and easy. It was like 15 quid or something. So
that's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. So all of those games I got for £100 for the 5 of them.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Which I think I sold like 3 Switch games I sold to get.
That's pretty good.
It's not bad. So I've not played any of them because they've not arrived yet. They should be arrived. But I have mostly been just doing Pioneers of Olive Town and a wee bit of Ring Fit and fitness boxing. I don't really think there's been anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're trying to get through uh, a farming game and all of its complexity for a podcast in 2 weeks, you don't really spend much time playing anything else,
Right.
especially when you have kids. Uh, yeah. So
Understandable.
that's what we've been playing.
Cool.
Shall we talk about some news? There's quite a bit of news.
Yeah, for behind the scenes, I guess you typically type up the news, compile the news into a list and then share it. And I was surprised at, I guess, how much news there is for.
Yeah, there's always
one of them.
news.
I was specifically an update I was aware of and I was excited to talk about. But yeah.
Is that perhaps the first one? The Story of
Yes.
Seasons Pioneers of Olive Town update?
Yes, that would be it.
We are on version 1.0.4. So I think we mentioned in the last episode that 1.0.3 was out and it had some reduced loading times. We now have 1.0.4 and that has more reduced loading times.
That's right.
I think before this update, going from the farm to the town took about 14 seconds. And now for me, it's taking about 8 or 9 seconds. So it's quite a speed up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very quick. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of other bug fixes.
Yeah. There was, I guess, an issue with an animation when praying at the shrine. I was unaware that
there was that the game break? There was like one game breaking bug. Was that?
I think that was this. It says fixes an issue where save data could become corrupted after animals are born.
Oh,
which is also a very weird like. Oops! I bred an animal and I can no longer play my game.
I don't think it was any time because I have had multiple breeding animals and before the update and it didn't break it. So I think it must have been a very specific animal that you were breeding in a specific way that led.
Okay. They also listed fixes an issue that created infinite items under certain conditions, which sounds like
rats.
An exploit that maybe people were taking advantage of. I was unaware of it, but I'm sure to some people they're probably disappointed that feature is gone.
Well, don't update if you want to keep that one. Totally fine. Totally fine. You can always delete updates as well.
That's true.
So, but then you'll have to deal with longer loading times. So, win some, lose some.
Yeah.
And the really exciting thing is there's an upcoming quality of life update 1.0.5, which is coming at the end of May. And they've announced a number of things that will be coming with that, which I think these things are probably stuff that we'll get into properly in the discussion around the game.
Sure.
But it's a number of different things, including updated villager dialogue, changes to how the makers work. And that, I don't think they've detailed that, but that presumably will be like you can put more in at a time, because currently you put in like one set into a maker and then you have to wait till it's finished and then put in more. I'm suspecting it must be that you can add a queue to it or something like that. I can't see what else it would be.
It does say on the Xseed site for the next update, they do clarify makers in an effort to improve the functionality of makers. They will be changed so that each maker is able to create multiple items. It doesn't say how many or anything, but it does. They do say that you'll be able to stack.
Oh, okay. I missed that. I missed seeing that wording.
Yeah, it's like in its own separate that and dialogue are kind
of
in their
yes,
own
I see.
Aside from the rest of the bullet points.
Yeah. Silly me. Why would I think they'd have the information in the bullet point?
The dialogue thing is interesting too. The way that they word it is they're working on new dialogue so that players can enjoy getting to know the residents of Olive Town even more than before. And yes. I don't really know what that means aside from I know that prior to launch there were Western launch at least there were a lot of complaints about there not being really much of a way to tell. There's no like character portraits with dialogue like there's been in previous games, so there's no real way to tell emotion based on purely dialogue. like non-cutscene dialogue.
Yeah,
So I'm assuming that's to fix that.
possibly. I think it's also like people were complaining that there's like it's mostly like a few sentences that
Oh,
each
sure.
person will have each day, so it might be just expanding that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. We'll find out.
Yeah.
To be honest, the relationships part of these games is never my focus. So,
Yeah, it really isn't
so
for me either.
some people it is
I
though, and each to their own.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I know that that's, for like Stardew, a lot of what I see for Stardew from
Yeah,
friends and people that I follow is, you know, specifically excitement about the relationship portion of that
yeah,
game. I do I do participate in an effort to like move the game along, but
yes, yes.
beyond that, I tend to stick to myself on my farm and my daily routine
Yeah.
in these games. So
There's also you'd mentioned the issue with when you're eating at a restaurant, it doesn't show the right food. Sounds like they're fixing that one.
yeah,
Improved visuals during eating.
I'm curious what they're after now having played it, because when we talked about it last time that people were complaining about that, I hadn't really experienced it yet.
Yeah.
But now having experienced it, it didn't really bother me a ton, but I'm curious to see, like, I'm assuming they're going to have to make 3D models for different foods. And I don't know if it's just going to be like, if you pick a fish dish, then there will be one
Possible, yeah.
model for like a fish.
It's possible that the images that already exist aren't actually sprites and are just 3D models that are viewed from a specific point. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly.
Because they do have an image for every single
Mm-hmm.
thing, so it could just be something like
Yeah,
that. I don't know.
it's just such a specific scene when you're eating that it's.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how they handle that.
I am fascinated by the people that are annoyed by this. It's like, I
Yeah,
get
I
it.
know,
If,
it's
you
such
know,
a-
we all have different things, but that is like, I didn't even notice it until I had to think, oh, wait, yes, this was an issue, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's such a minor thing. Like,
So weird.
I mean, they could pull the like eating cutscene entirely, and I would not
Yeah.
care.
I'd probably be happier. It's
Yeah.
quicker.
Right.
I eat to move to give me more energy. That's lit.
Yeah.
That's it, right? Just give me the more energy, please.
Yeah.
Also the ability to lock movement in a straight line. I'm intrigued as to how
please.
they're going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I'll talk about it when we talk about the game, but that's probably my like one of my bigger complaints.
I'm gonna.
So I'm very
we're gonna
excited
let's have a conversation about that later on because I'm intrigued
Yes.
by that one.
Okay.
Adjusted cooking times. I think everything's just like 30 minutes at this point in the game. I don't know whether that's a bug, but everything that I've cooked has said 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I think because it's 30 minutes to cook and then it's 30 minutes to take a bath.
Yes.
So anything that like increases or like stabilizes your health is just like a hard 30-minute line. Yeah, I guess that I never really considered that to be anything that needed adjusting, but I'm also curious to see what they do.
Well, is it meant to take 30 minutes to cook a fried egg? Like, come on.
Yeah, I know. I guess so. But what do you do? What does it become 10 minutes then, or like?
Yeah. I mean, well, let's. I have stuff to talk about cooking, so let's not pull all of the game into this part.
Yeah. Yep.
And the final thing is removing the need. This is the big bit. Removing the need to press the A button when moving from indoors to outdoors, so you can just walk out of a house.
Can't wait.
I'm excited about that, but we'll get to all of that later.
Yes.
The next up information is Turnip Boy. Turnip Boy what is it? Oh goodness me! I need to get the full name up. Sorry, Turnip Boy commits tax evasion. For some reason in the show notes, I only wrote Turnip Boy. We have a release date for Turnip Boy. It is now coming on the 22nd of April, which is very soon.
That is soon.
And that's to Steam and Switch.
That's great.
Yeah. I'm excited.
It looks absolutely absurd.
As all good games are.
Yeah. I love the announcement for that. Their April Fool's announcement.
Yes, it's. I scanned past it and went, "Oh dear, what day is it today?"
Yeah.
I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't.
Yep. I was deceived like 3 times in the first couple, even before it ticked over to April 1st for me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I that's enough. That's enough for today. That's enough
I,
for all of April Fools for me.
yeah, I just, it's not fun most of the time. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
had someone whose workplace basically pretended that they'd won 10,000 cream eggs. And you're like,
Oh.
if your April Fool is just like lying and it's just
Yeah.
like, it's just all that it is making somebody believe one thing that you said and then it's not true. It's like that's not fun. That's just mean. Like,
Yeah.
come on. And it ended up backfiring. People were like, "Oh, that's so mean." And eventually they ended up
Yeah.
actually buying cream eggs for everyone. But you're just like, especially if you're a company or you're in a position of power, and if your April Fool is just lying, like that's
Right.
not fun. Do something more
No.
interesting. Like, I like the April Fool's products that people actually make, like all the Google ones, like the Google Maps stuff,
Oh
and
yeah.
stuff
Yeah,
like
that
that.
stuff
Like,
is
those
always
are
neat. It's
fun.
something interactive and
Yeah.
like non emotional, not emotionally destructive, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. But like, if you're just trying to make me believe one thing that you're lying about,
right.
that's just not fun.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that got me was they had there was like an announcement that they were releasing like a bunch of Dragon Quest games on the Switch,
Yeah.
which was done in such a like plausible presentation that
Ah,
I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." And then immediately after that, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Like they even made a fake like Amazon link that when you click it, it would take you to the game, but like for the previous console release of it. And my wife was just like, I was like excited about it, telling her about it, and then immediately was like, "Oh, never mind. I think that was an April Fool's thing." And she was like, "That's so mean."
it really is. It's just not fun.
No, not at all.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about Turnip Boy. Have you seen it before, Micah? I can't remember whether
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
you planning on getting it.
Probably. I would say that there's too much for me to play right now, and that's absolutely true, but
Yeah.
uh, you know,
When's that ever stopped you before?
that's right.
Next, we have Cloudscape. This is a fun looking game that I've been looking forward to for a while. This is coming to. It is a Kickstarter. They've announced their Kickstarter coming soon.
Yeah.
That's all.
This is a somewhat new thing to me that I guess until pretty recently was unaware that you could like announce that your Kickstarter like
Yeah,
on actual Kickstarter like have a pre-launch for it.
yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Useful for me because then people announce it months before, and I can just click the button to be reminded of it, and
Yeah.
it happens when it happens. Less fun news. We have Forager. The multiplayer update has been cancelled for that game.
That's too bad.
Yeah. So, and it's really interesting. So I'll share the update link in the show notes. But basically, the creator of the game is basically saying that the other developers that they hired to build the game after the initial I think there was like one DLC that they were involved in. They didn't do any work other than these developers that they hired. And he was basically saying that the code base has got into such a messy state that it's just not sustainable anymore to do any work on the game.
Yikes.
Which is, I mean, good on you telling us like how things actually are.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, I mean, it sounds like they've said that it doesn't mean there will not be any more updates in the future. But like the way that they then talk about the game, it makes it sound like they'd have to roll back to make it work, like
Yeah.
past multiple updates. So it's really interesting. I'd really recommend if you're interested in it, reading the whole post on Patreon. It's really interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, and they said too that that they've had offers to remake it,
Yes.
but it would take 2 to 3 years, and they would rather spend that 2 to 3 years on making Forager 2,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
guess makes sense. And they
Yeah.
say specifically that they can include multiplayer from the like the starting point with
Yeah.
Forager 2 rather than spend 2 to 3 years working on a multiplayer update.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really strange and unfortunate circumstance.
It's all very odd. So yeah, I don't. They've said that there might be more content coming for Forager in the future, but like I wouldn't expect it at this point.
Yeah.
It basically sounds like they're saying, "Yeah, I'm going to work on a new game," and but I mean, I totally get not wanting to release something that you don't think is good enough. Totally
Yeah.
get that. Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
I do too. And it's good that they're being straightforward with it too, rather
Yeah.
than suggesting that, they're
Yeah.
just going to keep working on it. It's kind of refreshing, I guess, to see like, hey, this is way more of a problem than it needs to be, and I'm just not going to do it instead of pretend that I'm going to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is kind of nice. And they're offering refunds to people too.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah,
Is,
if you bought it in purely for multiplayer, you should have waited until the multiplayer was there. But
Yeah.
they are saying that if you've bought it purely for the multiplayer, you can go get a refund. And actually looking through all the comments, they're pretty much all positive. Like, we understand, we're obviously disappointed, but we understand, and keep doing what you're doing, make us something good in the future. And so yeah, it looks generally seems to be positive, despite obviously being disappointing that. On a slightly happier note about updates, my time at Porsche, at this point the consoles are not feature parity. What's the you would talk about feature parity, but what is the name for that in the tense that I'm thinking? They are not feature equal, feature pair.
Sure, yeah, feature equal, I guess maybe is the
They don't have the same features on console as they do on
Right.
PC. And so they are giving an update about the updates, an update about the two consoles. And basically, to cut a long story short, they should be coming in the summer this year. So there you go. Presumably that will be the last update because they're working on Sandrock,
something.
Sandrock?
Yeah,
whatever, the new one.
the new one.
The new one.
Does this?
So if you,
I'm curious if they have made a lot of strides or improvements as far as quality goes on console. I don't know that I haven't really paid much attention to it. It sounds like there were a lot of I mean they list here in this post that they were fixing major bugs and memory issues and crashes and things like that, but I guess I don't know, does it play significantly better
than the original update? Yes.
Okay.
I
have not touched it since.
I believe it's still not. I believe it's still not equal to the PC version quality.
Sure. Which I don't ever really expect, especially on like Switch.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little rough. It's interesting that they're still working on it though.
Yeah, and I think they've got a different companies doing the port.
Yeah.
So the Porsche team are working on Sandrock, and it's this other finish.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So if you really want to play all the updates on Porsche on your Switch, I think it's on other consoles as well. I don't care about other consoles when it's on the Switch. You can get that this summer. So there you go. If you're still playing Porsche. And finally, the most exciting piece of news is that the second DLC for Harvest Moon One World is coming out on the 13th of April.
Time to reinstall.
Time to buy my game back. No, it's pets. It's just more pets. It's more of the... pets is the thing I least care about in these games. Are definitely.
Yeah. I enjoy having a pet in the game, but I don't know that I would buy all new DLC specifically just for pets.
Yeah, I mean, presumably it's like it's a season pass, so you wouldn't be buying this one specifically.
Oh, sure.
It's a nice way to bulk out the the season pass. It's like with the Pioneers of Olive Town, where they've got like two of them are basically just clothes. But you didn't buy the DLC for the clothes. You buy it for the other stuff, but they come along and it makes it look better.
Right. Yeah. Cosmetic cost as opposed to, I don't know, content cost. Because I thought there was another, like, another area. I guess I don't really know. I didn't pay a ton of attention to the DLC for One World. I know that there was a new area that
Yeah.
was already out, but I thought that they were doing another new area.
I believe so. I think there's a third one coming. I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, at this
It's a
point,
bad game.
it's real hard to care about it
It really
anymore.
is. Really. Anyway, just go get your DLC if you care about it. Um,
Precious Pets specifically is what it's called.
amazing. Look, I can get a wolf in Pioneers of Olive Town. That's all I need, right? Well, I think that's all the news. So, shall we talk about Story of Seasons, Pioneers of Olive Town,
Yeah, let's do it. I'm
or
excited.
sauce put?
Sauce Poot. I saw that even the I was like, that's an unfortunate abbreviation, but they don't always have to use those abbreviations. But I think Marvelous was actually using that abbreviation.
Yeah.
In a tweet.
Yep.
Oh, it's the hashtag that they use, which is unfortunate.
It
At
could
least
be worse.
they're, I
Could be
guess,
worse.
leaning into it, instead of trying to pretend that it doesn't. That's not what it says.
Yeah. So, I mean, shall we start where we start? We've got your typical farming game introduction. Your grandfather founded a town. Now he's dead.
Of course.
You're taking over the
Always.
farm.
Yeah.
What a very unique storyline.
That's the rules. Grandfather has a farm, and then you're there. They're not anymore, but now you are.
I actually really liked the introductory video type thing. It's making it clear you're out on a big journey. Like you go out on your scooter, and like you go across like multiple days and multiple different places. I thought that was quite fun.
It definitely gives you a sense that this is like far outside of your, similar to Stardew in that you get on the bus and then show up in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels more farther away from your home life than previous Story of Seasons or Harvest Moon. Yeah, it was neat. I did get a little bit of I can't tell if it's just maybe like the character models or something, but there was almost kind of this little bit of a feeling that like the intro cutscene felt, I don't know, like not like low quality, but I was like, this feels maybe like it could have been a little bit better.
Oh, interesting.
Just like the way that they pause some of the scenes, or like some of the shots of you on your scooter or something. I was like,
yeah,
this feels just a little bit weird. I don't know what it is specifically. It just feels maybe like, I don't want to say like low budget, but it didn't feel like it was really necessarily anything that they put a lot of time or effort into.
Fair enough. I mean, I didn't get that personally, but I quite liked it, and I thought it looked quite good. But you probably have a much better eye for these things than I do.
Yeah, and like I said, I think maybe part of it was that it just like the character models or something. I like it took me a while to get used to the character models in this game. Visually, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, we're talking about graphics. Let's talk about graphics. I think overall, I will agree that the style, especially of the characters, took a bit of getting used to. But now that I've played it for a couple of weeks, I really like it.
Yes, I do too. Absolutely. Yeah, it took a little bit to like get comfortable with it, but now that I'm comfortable with it, it looks great.
It felt a little bit like in every generation in Pokemon, where it's like different dimensions for the people, and it just feels a little bit weird. But then after a wee bit, it's the normal, and all the other ones feel weird.
Yeah. Yeah, and I noticed specifically that there were, I guess with some of the characters, kind of like goofy facial features, like the mayor in specific has, kind of like big, wide, round eyes,
Yeah.
and like just two circles, and initially I was like, some of these facial features are just kind of odd in comparison to like
Yeah.
other characters or my character or whatever, but then it made me think about like, in previous Story of Seasons games where a lot of that was, and like old Harvest Moon games where a lot of that was mostly just shown in like an illustrated character portrait.
Yeah.
That's always kind of been their style, I guess. It's just different to see it in a very like high definition 3D format, I guess, which is
Yes.
maybe where it like kind of a struggle for me to get used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think certainly some of it felt a little bit like almost Me-esque, Nintendo Me stuff.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Where it just this just doesn't feel like this would fit a face well.
Yeah.
But I settled on my preferred facial features, and I think once you've found something that works, it looks quite nice.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
in terms of character customization, I think it's pretty good. Pretty good character customization.
Yeah,
There's
it really is.
a lot of options. I didn't actually count. I normally count the number of skin colors because there's always a disappointingly low number. It wasn't
Hmm.
amazing, but it also was fine. It wasn't like three.
Right.
I
Better than
cannot
they've
remember how
done
many.
previously.
Say again.
Better than they've done previously, for sure.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Definitely. Um, I'm really
uh,
bad at writing down things at the beginning, but I feel like they did pretty good in terms of just you choose, so you don't actually choose a base, so you don't go, hey, choose a boy or a girl like so many
yes,
games
that's
do.
exactly what I was gonna say. I was that was like one of my primary early notes was that, and I noticed this with Monster Hunter too, and I feel like it's starting to kind of become the norm that there's not like
Yeah,
you don't have to pick a binary,
yeah,
and it just kind of you pick your voice and your posture or your it, and then all of the physical features are kind of just like not tied specifically to
yeah,
a specific gender that you have two of that you can pick, and that's it. Like
yeah, yeah,
it's a lot more open. And I initially I was like, oh, that's really cool that they just let you kind of pick whatever you want, and you're not outright picking male or female as your gender.
yeah,
But then immediately after that, there is that point where you meet the mayor right at the start of the game, and they ask if you're a boy or a girl. So I was
yeah.
like, well,
It was so weird. It was like, this
yeah,
was great. I love how they didn't make us do that. And then like, yeah, so which one are you? And you're like, what? I don't. What? Why? For what? And
what
I,
was
and
the
I
point of
cannot, for the
not,
cannot for the life of me figure out why. Like, it literally doesn't seem to change anything in the game.
Yeah, it really doesn't. It has
Yeah.
zero bearing, so it's just kind of
What
weird
was
to.
what was the point? It's like it's just been put in so that people who care about that will be like, oh, that's fine. I get to be my gender.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't understand what the purpose of that is. It doesn't. You can marry anyone in the game. You can
Uh
choose
huh.
any clothes. You can choose
Yep.
any facial, body, hair style features, no matter
Yep.
what. It literally changes nothing. What was the point in that? You were so
I
close.
honestly don't know.
So
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. I found that
Whatever.
to be odd. I was like, oh, this is really, really, great progressive thing that they're doing with this game, and then immediately like didn't undo it, but
Yeah. I also found that I think this was the first point, this question, but there's a lot of the translation, the localization that just feels a little bit off to me
sure.
in that it feels like it almost feels like they've just, and I know they haven't, I know they have a big team, and I know they've done like a big blog post on how they localized it, but it just feels like some of it's just been put through Google Translate. It's like,
Yeah.
have you been into the settings menu?
I have, but I don't really recall specifically.
So in the settings menu, right, if you go into the gameplay settings,
Mm-hmm.
the save button, the text on it is reflect changes.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that.
And that's just really like what a weird way to
In the
word it.
settings?
Yeah.
Because I
So if you
know
just go
that
in,
there's, like, when you press start, there is, like, a save or load option.
yeah.
And
If you
that
go to
just says
options,
save or load.
under save and load, if you go to options and then you go to game.
Reflect changes? Is that
Yeah. Yeah. It's
interesting?
weird. Like
You know,
it
it's
just
not incorrect, I guess. It's just
yeah, but this is my point. It's like a transliteral
yeah.
thing. It's not actually like nobody would actually use that, and I'm a little bit confused as to how. So there's quite a few things like that, but it's like you're not wrong,
Right.
right? But like it doesn't feel right, and so I don't
Yeah,
know what the deal is with that.
I almost wonder if there is, like, they have when they translate things, specifically like UI or and not like conversational elements. I wonder if they have like rough translations that they get first, and then uh like fine tune those translations when they get to that point in development, and maybe they just
And
forgot
that was
about
just
that
missed
one,
or something.
just
Yeah,
missed it.
yeah. I think there
Uh,
were a few other things like that. I can't remember what the wording was in the "Are you a boy or a girl" one, but I felt like there was something in that that just felt off as well.
yeah,
And it's just been a few cases where I'm just like, that just doesn't feel like a thing someone would say.
right. Yeah, there's it's very weird because a lot of it is, pretty normal as far as dialogue goes, like
Yeah,
very, and it's like they have an achievement feature, and in the achievements and stuff there's little like quips and things that are
yeah,
feel like they would be, you know, uh very different culturally, I guess, uh
yeah.
depending on
I'm not.
how
I'm
they're
definitely not.
translated. So
It's definitely not all weird. It's definitely just a few things. So it could just be like what you say, like maybe some of it goes through machine translation and then they go back and check over it. And there's just a few that nobody noticed was really weird.
right.
But that one in
I do see
particular
what you're
is
saying.
so odd.
I see what you're saying now. It's to like, yeah. I guess that maybe makes a little bit more sense. I went into the options in the game just to see this because I was so curious. It's specifically for if you're making changes to the if you're like changing the gameplay options. So like if you
Yeah,
want to change the message speed to like fast or whatever,
I just
then
like
when
I
you
don't know.
change something, then it's the selection is reflect changes, which
Yeah,
is like makes a little bit more sense than I guess I thought you were saying. Like that's what they use for like saving, like instead
oh, okay, yeah.
of like save data, it was reflect
Right, okay,
changes.
yeah. Yeah. I
So that
guess
makes a
maybe
little bit
that's
more sense, but it's still
yeah.
weird wording, I guess.
It just I just don't know who chose that wording. I don't
Yeah.
like even I just don't understand it. I don't get it and it's weird. It doesn't ruin anything and it's not confusing. It's just odd,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
Kind of general gameplay wise, I think that's all I wanted to talk about in that sort of stuff. I think it's pretty good. The tutorial's fine.
Mhm.
Nothing horrible, nothing great. I don't really remember much about it, which probably tells me it was quite good.
Yeah, I don't really either. There is something that when you start the game, you're faced with an option that I hadn't seen before, which was difficulty selection.
Oh yeah, yeah. They throw that in your face a lot. You have been able to do that in previous ones. I know in Trio of Towns you could choose a difficulty, but it was
Okay.
hidden. You had to specifically choose that option before creating the game. But yeah, no. So they now explicitly ask you every time you create a game, and you can also change that in the settings
Mhm.
after creating a game. So you can go back to you can if you've realized, oh no, actually I don't like this version of the difficulty. You can change it after, which is very
Yeah.
good, very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. It changes like things you get more money
Yeah,
for selling. Um
it works very similarly to previous ones where they've had a difficulty setting. So I
yeah.
know Trio of Towns. Basically, you get more money. Things are less likely to die. You get more friendship with.
Mhm.
Just if you're playing it literally just to have fun and you don't care about things, then playing it on the seedling difficulty is might be more fun for you.
Yeah. That's what I did.
Oh, you did that. Oh,
I I
cool.
I didn't have I didn't play a lot of Trio of Town, so I don't, and it's been so long that I didn't
Yeah.
really recall that. So this was like kind of a semi new thing to me, and I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
I'll play it, because in addition to uh the fact that multiple things that I care about came out at the same time, uh
Yeah.
we also have not like a rush or anything to get to a certain point, but like, before recording this show, we obviously want to get to experience
A decent
enough, and
way
I'm
through.
like, this
Yeah.
feels like a much more comfortable way to play given all of the circumstances.
Yeah, no, totally, totally. I am very pro difficulty settings. I would never judge anybody for it,
Yeah,
and I think that's good. I personally am not a huge
same.
fan of going in seedling mode, just because, like, I like to play a game the way that it is originally designed. Generally,
Yeah.
and it tends. I find it's the most well balanced version, so that's
Mhm.
why I would continue doing that. But I totally get, anybody choosing it. It's good as an option, and good that they explicitly ask you. So, because
Yeah.
obviously, if it's hidden, it's quite hard to notice.
Yeah.
It's good that
Yes.
it's
Agreed.
explicit. Yeah, I think that's all. Like kind of general gameplay and graphics. Oh, I did want to say one other thing about the graphics. I think we're reaching the point where I don't really want it to get more. I think this is probably the most I want 3D.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think it works quite well. I really like it, but I still want it to be this kind of. It's not really top down. It's kind of 45-degree down.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, I don't want it to come any more 3D. I like the point that we've got. I quite like it. I know a lot of people like the your kind of 8-bit graphics style, like Stardew type stuff, and like that as well. But I think I really like how this looks. It's really good looking game in general.
Yeah, it really is.
But I don't want
It
any more.
art style wise too, it's a, like I said, it took a little bit of getting used to, but
Yeah.
especially coming off of such a very bland looking
Yeah.
game as One World, it was, kind of jarring. But yeah, it's style wise,
Yeah.
it's very neat. It's
I mean,
nice to look at.
I
Uh
mean, even if you like completely clear your farm of everything and it's just the grass, even that
mhm.
looks better than Harvest Moon 1.
Yeah.
you know, and I don't know what it is about it, but it just so, and it's like the color of the grass is a much more realistic color rather than the weird neon
Mhm.
green. Like it's just
Yeah, and the
everything is just slightly
textures
nicer.
are just generally better quality, it seems like, just
Yeah.
good quality textures and stuff. Yeah, it's I agree. I don't think it needs to be any more realistic or developed like
Yeah.
visually, or like specifically style wise. I don't think it needs to be much more developed than this.
Yeah.
But I do like where it's at now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm still wanting them to in future games try with other styles of.
Oh,
I'd be
totally.
sad if they never did another Doraemon style graphics and stuff
Yes.
like that. And I'm sure they'll do more, Friends of Mineral Town style games as well. But yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm totally down with multiple different game styles that they do. Um,
Oh, me too. Yeah. I just don't know that like any further in the direction of like realism. I don't think it needs
yeah,
to.
no, this is
uh,
fun. I think definitely keep advancing and having uh higher resolutions and better looking, but it does you can be better looking while also not looking more real. Like,
mhm.
the if you look at, like, for example, the animals, like, they don't look real, but they look great.
Yeah.
you know?
Yes.
They look ridiculous, but they look so much better than they have in previous.
Yeah. They look like they fit in the world, which is
Yes, exactly.
important.
Um I've got music in the list. It was fine. I didn't really notice anything amazing, but I also didn't notice
Uh
anything that annoyed me.
yeah. Yeah, I mean I found myself like humming some of the like the day-to-day music, I guess. Cuz it is catchy. It's like good catchy music, but uh yeah, it's not It's not any. It's very much your kind of standard farming game fare as far as music goes.
Yeah. I noticed, did you
Kind of
notice that
changes
the
slightly based on season and things like that. So
yeah. Did you notice that the how I don't know whether it was just me that felt like it was or whether it actually is, but um the in-house music, I'm convinced is what's that? Oh, what's the song? Is it called What a Wonderful World? Is that the Louis Armstrong? Yeah, it is called What.
oh
Do you know the song I'm talking about?
yeah, I do.
It
You're saying
I'm
when you're
convinced
inside your house?
when you're in your house, I'm convinced that's what the song is.
I did not make that connection, but I have a feeling that after we talk now and I go and play, I'm probably gonna hear it
You can let me know after the podcast.
and have
I'm
a hard
convinced that.
time not hearing it probably.
Sorry. That's a good song. Yeah, it's good, but yeah, like in Harvest Moon One World, there were some songs that just annoyed me. Whereas there's not
Yeah.
really that. It's better.
Yeah, it was very limited in One World. It seems like it's a little bit more like you have uh your different tracks based on where you are and
Yeah.
what time of day it is and what season it is, which is
Yes.
nice, but I guess it's kind of to be expected at this point.
Right, let's go through some of the mechanics then. So the big new thing in this game is that you've got a much larger farm than normal, and you are literally exploring. So it's like this old Trio of Towns had a kind of version of this where you unlocked areas of the farm as you moved
Mm-hmm.
along, but that was literally just you're doing things and it automatically unlocks. Whereas this is you have this large area. It's kind of like three different sections, and as you progress, you're slowly kind of chipping away at this untamed farmland, and then you have to kind of fix some bridges and fix some fallen down trees and stuff to get through to the other areas. And I really liked this
Yeah.
exploration style.
Yeah, it's so like you start with your one primary section that's, you got to hack all the trees and break all the rocks as per usual. And then as you progress to the thing that I thought was neat is that the facilities, you don't have to just like buy the facility.
Yes.
You come across them in these areas that you're unlocking, and you can, in the same way that you contribute materials to fix a bridge or whatever, you can
Yeah.
contribute materials to fix up the facilities, and then they're just yours, which is neat.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Um,
It's pretty cool. It lends to the idea that this was a farm and it's
mhm.
completely run down, and now you're just trying farming.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah, I do too. And in general, I don't know if it's getting ahead of the discussion or not, but the material collecting and crafting and contribution and stuff feels very well suited, I guess, for this
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
I would be it's real hard to I think maybe just get this out of the way sooner than later. It's very clear that there is a lot that they took from Stardew Valley.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, Stardew Valley has done its job, right?
Mhm.
Concerned Ape created Stardew Valley to be a Harvest Moon that he wanted to play. And that has pushed things forward, and they've implemented a lot of things, and that's good. You know,
Yeah.
that's why we want multiple good farming games so
It's
that they
true.
all make each other better. Absolutely.
Competition
Yep.
breeds innovation, is as they say.
I think there's also some aspects from Animal Crossing that they're taking.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
Um,
Uh,
but yeah, we'll
you
get to
get
those
your
individual things later on.
yeah. I just know that tabbing over in the menu to like, oh, I need to make a fence or
Yeah.
whatever, and there was just a whole slew of like a tab that was all specifically things that you could craft
Yeah.
just in the menu. I
The,
was like, this is familiar.
yeah, the crafting system is pretty nice, and very similar to Stardew. It's very nice. I don't think there's a huge amount. I'm really trying hard to remember if there was any crafting in Trio of Town. I feel like there wasn't, and you had to buy everything.
Yeah, there's always kind of been that like bring some materials to to like, you know,
to
like you
someone
got to
else.
have the right ore to upgrade tools and
Yeah.
things like that, but nothing to the level of like get 50 lumber and 50
Yeah.
silver and whatever, and then you can just fix up. Like, it does give you the option to either pay for uh um like a development to have something fixed, or to like collect the materials and do it that way,
Yeah.
which is nice. But yeah, that's it. The emphasis on acquiring materials and then using them to craft things or like develop your farm further is definitely
Yeah.
pretty prevalent.
Yeah. One other thing I'd say about the exploration of it is I really liked it, but also when you get to the final area, it feels like there's more to unlock, and there isn't, and it just
Oh,
feels a
sure.
little bit jarring. Where you're
Yeah.
like, here's this final area, well, here's this third area, and then you're like, oh, there's a little area down there. I wonder how I get to that. And you're like, oh, here's a
Hmm.
bridge that I need to fix, and the bridge just unlocks a mine, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. That was odd.
Um, here's a weird thing on that topic specifically about like, being able to see that there's something below or whatever. They added a new feature uh in the form of the camera to this game,
Yes.
where you can take pictures of wild animals and things and contribute them to the museum, and you can just take
Yep.
pictures of things and store them in an album. But it's interesting because the camera puts you in first person view,
Yeah.
and very quickly into the game I realized that I could use that to like see ahead of me. So like
Oh.
I got the camera and I was like, "Oh, let's take a picture of, that I don't remember what, maybe it was a squirrel or something on my
Yeah.
first section of the map that I was like, "Oh, I'm going to take a picture of that." And I turned around and saw across the bridge that I hadn't fixed yet, and saw that there was a facility over there that was run down, I I
Huh.
saw a cow like grazing out in the
Huh.
open, and I was like, "Oh, okay, so that's how I get a cow, and that's how I get the facility for the cows."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was able to, once I realized I could do that, I when I got to that next area and saw that there was an area beyond that, then I was like, "Oh, let me bust out the camera and see if I can see, what's beyond
Oh, that's cool.
what
Yeah.
I have coming,
Yeah. Yeah. The
which was
camera's
kind of
cool.
neat. And I don't think I would want a first person view for a
No,
farming game,
definitely not.
but it's still it still was like a thing that I was able to do. I don't think that was like originally intended, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was totally intended.
yeah.
And I think I've not done a huge amount of the taking pictures, but I think it's a really good addition because it's just another thing that you can do, and you can
Yeah.
ignore it if you want, or you can continue at it and fill up a whole museum of pictures. I think it's pretty cool.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's neat. And I don't have you done any of the picture stuff
I've done a
yet?
few, but not. I've maybe
Okay.
done like three pictures to the museum or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so when you take a picture of an animal, then it gives you a little statue in the museum of that animal, which
Yeah.
is pretty neat. And
It did feel a little
seeing
bit
that,
weird that your picture isn't on display, and you're like,
yeah.
why am I taking the pic? Why am I donating a picture? Like, do
Well,
you not know what a squirrel looks like? Can you
you're
not
giving them
create
reference. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're giving them reference
just
to work from. I don't know who's making the statues. That is never really obvious, but
yeah, it's a bit weird. But anyway, the museum in and of itself, we're really bouncing around here. Why not? It's fun.
yeah.
The museum in itself is cool. I like it in general. It's clearly taken some things from Stardew and some things from Animal Crossing.
Mhm.
In that you can donate fish in this one as well.
Yeah.
So you've got the standard museum where there's like treasures. You can donate photos and you can. But why do you have to choose where things are? Like,
Yeah.
I'm donating a fish to this person who works in the museum, and they go, "Okay, great. Choose where you put the fish." And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
no, don't make me do this. Animal Crossing has just ruined museums in every other game because it's
Yes.
done so well. Like,
Yeah,
it
it's
is. just incredible that this is just so disappointing.
It's really nice to not have to make that decision in Animal
So
Crossing
nice.
because it
Yeah.
looks much the end result is much more put together. And I guess
Yeah.
it doesn't matter a ton when you're talking about like you have like really uniform pedestals or like fish tanks or whatever, but it doesn't it's still there's that like nagging in me that's like, well, I don't know what the other things are, so what
Yeah.
would look best to put this where it is before I get to the point where I'm like, there's no way for me to tell. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to put it
Yeah.
wherever.
And I
But
also
that
like
was
I don't
absolutely
want to make that decision either. Like that's just a
yeah.
waste of time for me. Like I don't at least give me an option to just say I don't care, put it where you right because
Yeah.
it's just it's like it takes time to do that and I can't be bothered with that part of the game. I want to fill the museum. I don't want to curate a museum. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah, I agree. And that definitely was the like the Stardew influence. I felt like when when you put something in the museum, it gives you the option to like
Yeah.
pick the pedestal that you want or the treasure to go on. And
But
that
also
felt
in
like maybe
Stardew it's
that's
very
just where
quick.
they grabbed it, where it was like
Yeah. But in Stardew it's literally just press right, there you go, select it, right? Whereas you're actually
Mhm.
running around the museum in this game. So you
Yeah.
have to like run to the opposite end if you've filled up everything close to the door. Like it
Mhm.
just takes so long. Whereas in Stardew, it's like just press a couple buttons and you're done.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I agree. Yeah, I definitely wish that they had had more of like a developed vision for what the museum could look like, and
yeah,
it just rather than giving that freedom to the player because it's not something I think is necessary. I don't know, maybe there are people who just really love being able to place their
curating a museum.
treasures in the exact spot that they want it to
Yeah,
go, but
maybe.
when the layout is as uncreative as just a bunch of things next to each other, it doesn't really feel
Yeah.
like it matters.
I also think you can't move them after you've selected the first place, have you?
I
At least I
actually
don't
don't know. I'm
I
assuming
haven't
no.
tried.
Yeah, I haven't either. I'm assuming that
I,
the answer is no.
Yeah,
Just
because
because I don't know. But
you can only do it when you're adding a new thing anyway. Like if you go into the museum just normally, you
hmm
select it and it tells you about. So I suspect,
right. Yeah.
and and so to be able to actually properly curate it, like you say, you need to know everything that there is, or be able to move things later on, and
hmm
that's not ability. So it just feels a little bit half-hearted. It's
Yeah.
nice, but yeah,
Yeah.
just
I
do it
mean,
automatically.
it's fun to like take a picture of an animal and then have like a statue of it
Yeah.
show up and see that there's more to collect, and like that's neat.
Yes.
But
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
it's also like
maybe handhold
you,
that portion. And normally I would be like, don't handhold me, but in
yeah.
this case, please
Well,
take the reins.
um, it's like in Littlewood. The museum in Littlewood is basically like what I want this one to be, where it is just pedestals, but each individual thing has a specific pedestal. So
hmm
the designer has decided where things are going to go, and you go in and you submit it and it just appears on the pedestal that it's meant to go on. And sure, it might not be as nice as the Animal Crossing museum. That's a lot of work. I'm not expecting that. I would love that. I'm not expecting that. But at least there's
Yeah.
some logic to the order. Like it's specifically ordered, like for some reason. And that can be whatever reason. But like I'm never going to be able to do that unless I look at a list on the internet of everything and then work out an order. Whereas
Yeah.
you can do that much easier in the software. Like that's how programming works.
Right.
You can just order things how you want.
Yeah.
Easy. But
Yeah.
uh, it's such a minor thing. It just like it's an annoyance.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. It would be nice to. It's a neat feature, but yeah, it would be nice to be able to, I don't know, either adjust it or not have to. I mean, I guess not worrying about it is just you just put it anywhere, but which is kind of what I
Yeah, but
wound up doing. But
yeah, I know. It just takes time.
yeah.
The your discussion around the camera reminded me of something. The when you're in the normal mode, there's a very small amount of camera movement that you can do, but it's like I don't know if have you done this at all.
Uh, what do you
You
mean
can
as far
move
as?
when you're running around the farm, you can move the camera
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
very slightly. It's like it's elasticy. So like
Oh, I see what you're saying. Not the actual camera tool, but
no
like
no
the
no
the
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 game cam
in-game
yeah
camera.
the
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you can move if you're just running around. You can like and you want to look in a different direction than where the camera's pointing you. You
Mm-hmm.
can pull on the analog stick to move the camera, but a little bit. It's like maybe 10 degrees in every direction you can look.
Yeah.
Which is I kind of when I first did it, I was like, oh, I don't like that. I kind of like it. I
Yeah,
think
I kind of do
if it's
too.
if it's a choice between no camera moving and this, I think it's quite a nice balance. I would prefer being able to do more camera movement, but I understand why they wouldn't want to do that because that's a lot of work. But I
Yeah.
quite like this as a kind of compromise of we're not going to give you full 360-degree camera movement, but you can have just a little bit of extra if you just need to see something around the corner or something. It's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot more freedom of like movement around buildings and things. There's less boundaries, I
Yes.
guess, maybe,
Yeah,
which I think you kind of need that for when you have less
definitely.
boundaries. You need the ability to kind of pan around things. But yeah, I noticed too that immediately it's like automatically if you're behind a building it will gray out like I don't know, make it
Yeah.
somewhat
Uh,
see-through so that you can
yeah,
see where
yeah.
you are,
It's
which
pretty
is
good.
really nice.
I've also
And
found that the camera movement helps a lot with that as well because sometimes if you're not like perfectly behind a tree, it won't gray it out because it's just like you're just not at the right point. But if you move
right.
the camera, it does it. So like it instead of not being able to see anything, you can just kind of, pan the camera a tiny little bit. And there you go, you can see what you need to see. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
really nice balancing of all these things where you're never going to get the transparent building and tree thing perfect. There's always going to be a point where it's like, oh, I wish I could see behind it now. And that's
Yeah.
where the camera comes in. It allows you as the player to go like, actually, yeah, I want to see that bit. Let me see that. And that works really nicely. Um, yeah, no, definitely. That's good. Yeah, that was just a small aside.
Yeah, it's
The
it's good.
farming. So we'll talk about some mechanics here. The farming, if you've played Trio of Towns, which was the previous main series, if you will, Story of Seasons game, they had a weird 3x3 squares where you'd have like it felt a little bit like the complete opposite of this game where there was much less freedom of things. There was like only specific places you could farm in. I guess not
Sure.
quite as bad as Harvest Moon One World, but there were like it was much more limited in what land you could use
Right.
to farm on, and you would plow a square which when you planted a seed in it, it would be automatically 9 squares planted,
Yeah.
which felt a little bit weird. So they're back in this game to a single square, single seed. Much better, in my opinion. You
Right.
know what you're getting from it.
Mm-hmm. uh Still somewhat limited as far as like the like skills and stuff go and like tools and things like that. But like when you have, I don't know if you've gotten to the point where you upgrade your skills to be able to like sow seeds in a
Yes.
like larger square. It still does the like it's a 3x3 square, or it's a
Yeah, yeah. You can't do larger than that, but I think it feels a lot more natural. I actually really liked the being able to sow 9 seeds at a time because that was the one advantage of the weird system they had in Trio of Towns is that you could get 9 seeds with only pressing the button once, and I
yeah.
quite like how this works. So you when you get to a certain level in farming. So it's got the same leveling system as Stardew basically for your skills, which is,
Hmm.
is nice. It works quite well. I like it. And you unlock a lot of things as you go up the things. As you get to a certain level in your, I think it's called field work. You have the ability to instead of just put one seed down, you can do a 3x3 square of seeds. I think
Hmm.
that's quite a nice balance between the two. Of their weird system that they tried out in Trio of Towns, which just didn't work for me. But still being able to do more than one seed at a time, because I think that's one thing that I haven't noticed this in a farming game before, and it always annoyed me where you can upgrade all your tools, but you can't upgrade your sowing of seeds. And that
Right.
always annoyed me. And
Yeah.
this worked quite nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
It would be
it's
nice if you could do a bigger than a 3x3 at some point, though. I think that's the max you can.
Yeah,
I
I
haven't.
guess I don't know because it's I don't know how far you are as far as like the skill levels go. It looks like everything is capped at level 10.
They are, yeah. Let
Um,
me tell you. So I'm 10 draining, 10 at mining, and then I'm 8 at logging and field work, and
okay.
then most things are much lower. Animal care and reaping are at 7. Everything.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm at 7 for field work, so I don't know what the skills are beyond that, but maybe at level 10 it gives you the ability to
it's
just
possible.
maybe, who knows, but yeah,
It's
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 definitely
possible.
nice. And it's nice too. I guess I've just it's just force of habit at this point that I've always kind of like structured my farm around that 3x3 square
Yeah, yeah.
style.
Same,
Um
same.
just from like early on with Harvest Moon. It was always kind of that, especially before you could uh walk through the crops. There was that like weird 3x3 where the bottom was or the top was missing a square so you could get access to everything. uh but it's definitely nice now, especially because they added sprinklers again. Well, not
Yeah,
again, they added sprinklers, which was one of my favorite things about Stardew Valley,
yeah,
that I could build this square of crops, put a sprinkler in the middle, and not have to water it, which was wonderful.
yeah.
uh and that all of those things combined in this feel great, like being able to sow, leaving a square in the middle and having 8 square crops in a 3x3
Yeah,
square, and then putting a sprinkler in there and sowing all of the seeds at once, not having
yeah.
to water it, like just
It's
feels
really
very streamlined and nice.
there's a couple of things that annoy me about it. One is that the set. Have you got a second level of sprinkler yet? I think it's the max.
No, I haven't yet.
So that
At
instead
least
of
that I'm
doing
aware of. Yeah, no, I don't.
so the first level of sprinkler does 3x3. The second level does 5x5,
Oh,
which is
interesting.
a little bit annoying in that you then have to do everything in 15s to make it work nicely.
Sure.
And it's like, I just could you not have done it 6x6? Like just one more, and it would have
Right.
been would have been divisible by 3. Like I don't know why you didn't do that. Uh,
Yeah, that's
it's
odd. I
possible that
guess
there's a
maybe just
third
like,
level that does 9x9 or something. That would be perfect, but I don't. This I think there's
sure.
only 2 levels.
Yeah, that makes me wonder if then maybe like 5x5 is the next up for sowing seeds. Like that's a
I
skill,
wouldn't get your
but
hopes up,
yeah, I don't
especially
know.
because, and this is the other thing that annoys me. I have upgraded my watering can to the maximum you can do. What level is your watering can at? Have you not upgraded it
Uh,
because you're using sprinklers?
I'm on silver right now for my all my tools.
Right. So the second top level of watering can is 3x3, which makes sense.
Uh-huh.
The top level of watering can, because I was trying to upgrade my watering can because I didn't want to use sprinklers until I had the biggest sprinkler, because it's always annoys me when I do a whole bunch of sprinklers and then you get a better sprinkler and you're like, what a waste of time. The top level of watering can, instead of doing 3x3, does 3x4.
Why? Why would they
I
do that?
don't know. I do not know. It is such a weird, like, I was totally expecting it to do 9x9 or possibly 5x5, like
Yeah.
something 3x4. Literally, I spent 150,000 on this, 5 the highest level of thing, which is
Yeah.
incredibly rare in the game, by the way. And I got an extra 3 on each thing.
That's so strange.
I just it's the most disappointing upgrade ever. Like,
Yeah,
granted,
I don't understand.
you do go from 50 capacity to 99 capacity, but still, this is 3x4. What's that about?
3x4 is such an odd. Yeah, it's such a weird decision. I wonder
I just
why.
don't
Maybe
I
they
don't.
just.
Who
I was gonna say
designs
maybe
these
they expect
systems?
that people are just using sprinklers at that point, but like,
Like, but
what's
I
even the
just don't.
point?
Well, in that case, make it even better. Like, I
Yeah,
don't. There's no disadvantage to making it better if you think everybody's using sprinklers, because they're just not
right.
going to do it then. But you're actually then encouraging them to upgrade by giving them a good big upgrade. I I don't understand why you focus everything around the threes, right? Everything is focused around the threes except the top level of the tools and the top level of the sprinklers. And they're not even the same themselves. Why? Why? Because like, I mean, well, here's the most ridiculous thing, right? If you're doing things in 3x3s, um, generally you'll probably then do them in like 9x9s, right? Because you don't just do a 3x3, you're going to do a 9x9. That's a kind of sensible level of farm to do for each of your sections.
Yeah.
And when you've got the gold level watering can, it then takes you 9 things to go around that whole 9x9. Cool, makes sense.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
then upgrade to the top one, and it's 3x4. You go down your level that has 9 squares. You do one, that does 4. You do another one, that does another 4. You're 8. Now what do? You've got one level. You've got one that you have. It takes the same number of watering cans. It doesn't speed you up at all. You have to completely change how you've been doing everything to speed up at all. Who looks at these and goes, yes, this is a sensible upgrade to do? It makes no sense to me at all.
It really doesn't. Yeah, I don't understand. It should all be uniform and across, a tool set. So like for silver, everything should hit the same area or manage the same area in that set, and then the same thing for gold and platinum and whatever else. Like, it just makes sense for them to all kind of move in the same direction together.
Yeah, the 5x5 I understand on the sprinkler, right? I guess maybe 9x9 is a bit big. Fine, whatever. And all it means, instead of going 9x9 squares, you're doing 15x15. That's not ridiculous, right? Although now I have to refactor my entire farm because I spent a lot of time putting down paths and stuff that I never done in a previous games, because it's nice to do it. I like doing it, and also because the weeds keep coming back if you don't. But we'll get to that in a minute. And so I only have a space of 9x9. I don't want to refactor everything. I've got it how I want.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that. I'll just have an annoying layout, or maybe I'll just use the 3x3 sprinklers, because let's be honest, it's going to make me annoyed having a lopsided layout.
I'm probably not having not known that I was gonna have access to 5x5. I almost feel like I'm just not even gonna bother with it, because I have everything organized so well right now that with 3x3 that I don't know that I really want to mess with it that much.
I just like, what was my point? It's just so sad. Like, just the little things like that are really annoying.
Yeah.
If you right, oh yes, I remember what it was. I understand the 5x5. That's fine. It's annoying to have to redo things, but whatever, fine. It does the job, right? The really annoying thing for me is the fact that then that's different from the top level of watering can.
Yeah.
Why, if you're going to go, oh, we're going to stop doing 3x3, we're going to do 5x5 now. Why does your watering can not do that? So if you're, because the thing is, right, you go, well, you don't need to use the watering can because you've got sprinklers. You do have to use the watering can, because the first time you plant something, it's not being watered. That's how it works, right? You need to water things manually the first time you plant something. Right. And so you have to use your watering. Sometimes you look at something in a game and you're like, did anybody playtest that? Did anybody think through the fact that one of the things about these games is laying out your farm? That's what the game is about. I'm building up a farm. Harvest Moon seemed to have forgotten the fact that you're building up a farm in their last game. But, I'm building up a farm. I'm creating, like, now you're making me change everything to progress in the game quicker. Whatever. Stupid.
Yeah, it's a silly choice.
In general, I like the farming, though. It's pretty good. They've got seed makers again in this game. They've had them in previous ones, but the seed makers work quite well. I've actually been doing a lot more of that in this game than I have in every previous game, is feeding them in. I've got, I think, 6 different crops that are at 10 star now.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
I
feeding them in.
Rarely touch the seed makers historically, and now that there's other makers,
Yeah.
In this game. I've kind of been focusing on that, mostly just for like progression's sake. Like my
Yeah.
makers are pretty focused on uh, ingots and lumber, so that I can keep
Yeah.
progressing, because that tends to
Yeah.
be the progression materials. Is you
Yeah.
need certain lumber and certain ingots.
You got to get those bricks as well.
Yeah, and bricks. Uh, and for
I've never
tools
got
too.
enough bricks.
For tools too, it's a lot of for upgrading. It's you need not just the ore. You need to refine the ore, and then not just the wood. You need to refine it to lumber and so on. So
Yeah.
that's what my makers have been. It'll be real nice when they update it and I can stack things, because
Yes.
the time even now, like as I'm towards the end of summer, but it still feels like it feels still pretty early on. Almost all of my resources are being put towards trying to get the right materials to unlock everything that
Yeah.
farm wise. So
One thing that's really nice is that you, when you get to certain levels, you unlock giant makers as well, and they take more of the. So let's take for example the ingot one. So a normal ingot takes 5 ore and gives you 1 ingot. The
okay,
giant one takes 10 and gives you 3 back.
okay,
So you can do more at the same time. It takes the same time, I think, to do the 3 as it does to do the 1. So you get more quicker, but you also is more efficient. So you get 3 to 10 instead of 1 to 5,
gotcha. Okay,
which is nice. And I think I don't know for this for a fact, but I suspect all of the makers have a giant equivalent. I have a giant brick maker and I have a giant ingot.
okay,
But you get them at like level 10 of
I
whatever it
see.
is you're. So yeah,
Yeah, I have
takes
yet
a while.
to unlock giant makers, so
They're
that
really
sounds
nice.
kind of nice.
The brick one was the one I got first because that's when you get to level 10 of what's it called? Water one. Words.
The water
Draining.
one? Oh,
Draining.
gotcha. Yeah,
Level 10
yeah, because
drain.
that's the thing. There's this is new, right? Like
Yes, it is
being
new.
able to drain ponds, and
Yeah.
you get a bucket as a tool, so that there's when it rains, they'll leave puddles and things like that, and then you can use the bucket to scoop up the puddle.
Yeah. So there are different sizes. So you get like individual square ones, which is just like 1 square of water that you scoop up and
Mhm.
you get a bunch of clay. Occasionally some other things as you level up. And then you've got the ponds, which are larger and take more energy to get out, but you end up getting treasure out of them.
Mhm.
And then there's even bigger ones which you can't really manually do because they're so deep. But you get pumps that you can put on them, and they pump out the water. And then when they're done, you get a bunch more treasure,
Yeah.
which is it's a fun extra addition. And this is basically how you get stuff for the museum, the treasures. Um, by doing it's a fun addition, especially with the pumps, because you set them up, you feed coal into them, and they pump out stuff. I think you can use the pumps for the middle size as well, but when you I have an I have the top level of bucket, so there's no need for me to use the um the pumps for them.
Yeah. I have yet to build a pump, so
Okay.
I haven't drained a giant pond yet. And I'm only on silver for my tools, but
Right. One thing I would say about the large ponds that you have to use the pumps for,
mhm.
they refill over time, but it's confusing as to when you can pump them again. So they have like different colored water when they're filling up. It's like clean colored water. They kind of look a bit murky before you drain it, and it was just
Okay.
a bit confusing. Where there's like I don't know, it must be like a week or something draining it and actually being able to pump it again. And that whole time I'm like, why aren't these working? Why are my pumps not working? They're not doing anything. There's water in this, but I can't drain it. So it
Yeah.
has to. I think it has to fill up, and then there's another couple of days, and then it goes to the murky watercolor, and that's when you can start draining it again. It
I
was just
see.
a little thing that was just a bit confusing and a bit odd.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I don't so I have a question about the ponds.
Go for it.
Is there for the smaller ponds?
Yeah.
Is there a way to fill them in or get rid of
Overnight.
them?
When you go to sleep and you wake up in the morning, they're gone.
Oh, interesting. Okay, because there was a pond at one point that I um like a small pond that I drained with the
Yeah.
bucket and got treasure from, and it seemed like it just maybe it was a different one that took up a
Yeah.
new space, but it seemed
might
like
be.
it just filled up again.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't immediately go there the next morning and it hasn't been replaced by another one, it might be that like the next day it then was replaced or whatever. If there's a specific place you want something, yeah, you want something to be, yeah, you have to just drain it, go to sleep, and hope there's not a new one in.
Interesting. Okay.
Which I
Well,
think there
that's
are
good to hear, I
specific
guess,
places that they appear. So
Mhm.
like there's one spot behind one of my barns that it keeps coming on, and I want to move my barn behind it, but I keep forgetting when it's not there. And then when it's there, I'm like, oh, I wanted to do that. So I think they do spawn in specific places. So it may well be that it was spawning in the exact same
Sure.
space, but it doesn't spawn every single day. So yeah, if you drain it and come back the next day, if it's there again, drain it. It hopefully won't be.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I started in when I got to the second area, which is where you really start to find the ponds.
Yeah.
I started building up like an orchard on that space,
Yeah.
and I placed paths, which you have paths now.
Yes.
That's it's very similar to Stardew in that you use some stone to make a stone path and then you can lay it out and that's it.
Yeah.
But I created all the pathing for my orchard, and I quickly realized that there was a pond that was in the middle of that, and I was like, I guess I'll just
Right.
have to put trees around it, because I didn't know that there was a way you could actually get rid of the pond.
Yeah.
I just assumed that it was there and that was that. So
It'd be nice.
that's
It'd
good
be
to hear.
nice if once you've drained it and then you collected the treasure, it would give you the option to fill it in there and then, so you don't have to hope it doesn't spawn again the next day. But
Yeah.
it's a bit weird.
Yeah, they don't make that clear. Like I thought once I drained it, then I would have the option to, like, with the hammer or whatever, you can do a lot of construction adjustments. And I thought maybe something like that, like just pound it out, but not the case.
Yeah. No.
So
Well
now
done.
that I know that, though, it'll be easier to build out plan my
Yeah.
orchard better. So
While we're on the topic, I feel like we should talk about trees and weeds.
yeah, sure.
They are very prolific.
Ah,
Shall
yeah.
we say?
I was gonna say I feel like the regrowth period is very quick.
Too fast. Too
Like, yeah, a little bit, especially for trees, because they take up a space when they start to sprout again, and it takes 3 hammer hits, I think,
even
regardless
for the smallest,
of
even for the cheapest tree and the best hammer.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even I think
ridiculous.
despite the level of hammer that you have, it still takes 3 hits.
Yeah. I have the best hammer, and I have the second best axe. The second best axe will take down the simplest tree in 1 hit, but the hammer, the best hammer, will take down those tree sprouts in 3 hits. What's up with that?
My assumption for that was, I guess maybe that, like, if it's something that's growing, then they maybe they're giving you the option to, like, if it's in error, then you can stop rather than just, like, take it out in 1 hit. So, like, if you bought a tree
you don't need to do
plant,
3 for that though.
Yeah, 3's a little much. Or just, like, differentiate between just a normal tree and, like, a tree that you can plant. So, like, I'm starting this orchard, so I planted, some lemon trees, and it's the same asset as like an oak tree, but I purchased this lemon tree starter, not this, differentiate between what you buy and what just grows on its own, so that it's easier to get rid of one than the other. Maybe. But yeah, the rate at which things grow is so fast. Very fertile soil, I guess, and this on these.
It's especially annoying considering that you can't actually use every square to put something on. So like there's one one square around the entire farm and everything around the farm you can't put things down on. So you can't go right up to the sea or right up to the wall. But trees can spawn there. You can't plant a tree there, but they can spawn there. So
Yeah.
you can't like build paths along a wall
Mm-hmm.
to stop anything growing there, and that kind of adds to the annoyance.
Yeah.
So like there's this basically I have a path to one of my mines that constantly gets like it's the place I want to walk along the river, and I can't put a path down, so these trees are always sprouting up. So every time I go to the mine, I have to cut down these trees.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Like just
And
I get
rocks too.
the rate wouldn't be as annoying. Yeah, and the rocks, yeah. The rate wouldn't be as annoying if I could put things on those squares. And it's not like, oh, those just aren't squares that anything can happen on. They're just like normal squares, except that you can't do anything on them.
Mm-hmm.
They work exactly the same in every other way. You just can't do anything on them. And
Yeah.
that's really weird.
It is weird. I have in the first area, to give you an idea of my layout, I guess I have my my crops. I have like a section of crops, and then at the top of that area where there's like the mountainside, I have my chicken coop and my barn. In like a fenced
I
off
did
area.
have them there,
Mm-hmm.
but I upgraded them and they wouldn't fit there anymore in the way I wanted them to.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's gonna be my problem too.
Yeah.
But I have behind them is I have them as far up against that mountainside as I can have them, and there's
Yeah.
still
A
always like
space.
puddles or rocks behind them, and I just can't stop things from happening in those spaces.
Yeah, it's really annoying.
It's real weird.
So yeah, let us put things right up against the rivers and right up against. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason for it, but if it's not a technical reason, if it's a gameplay reason, cut it out.
Yeah.
It's stupid. There's no good reason for that if it's not a technical reason. If it's technical, fair, fine, whatever. We can't have everything, but if it's gameplay design, that's bad. Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I could imagine the reason that you couldn't put something there is because of maybe like collision. For like
Yes,
if something is growing, then or like
Yeah.
upgrading, then it might clip through the mountainside or like clip over the usable area into the water, whatever. But even then, just don't let things grow in that spot. Just
Yeah,
disable it
which is
entirely.
ironically the only thing that things happen there is growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not really sure that works. I'm sure it's a gameplay reason. I'm sure it's not a technical reason. I'm sure it's like a we just don't want people doing this or whatever. Like it's just annoying.
Yeah. I agree.
There's also a few squares around the between the areas where you can't put things that I really feel like you should be able to put them because it's just a flat piece of land and they just not let you put it on that square, which is a bit annoying. But
Yeah.
like my paths never look the way I want them to be because I just can't use that one square that would make it nice.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the curse of, Stardew kind of works in that scenario because it's 2D and everything's pretty flat.
Yeah.
But in this scenario where you're looking at 3D
I know.
models
I
and
know.
it's real hard with like changes in terrain to be able to put things,
Yeah.
which sucks.
They
That's
could make
unfortunate because
They could
I
make it
want
work if
that
they
to
wanted
happen.
to.
Yes, I absolutely.
They just don't.
Right. Yeah, I have my paths going to the bridge across to the next
Same.
area, and everything kind of just is like, I don't know,
It's like a really annoying,
stepped
jaggy end.
in a
to
weird,
it.
yeah. So.
Animal Crossing did it really nicely in that it kind of things blend together nicer.
Yeah, and you can like round
not
off
just a square.
corners and things like that.
Yeah, that would be nicer.
Yeah, it would.
In general, it's fine though. It's I actually am putting down paths. And stuff.
Yeah. I think that I'm hoping that for future iterations that maybe there will be a lot of improvements in that regard, and that since this is really kind of their first time stepping into that type of arena, that this is just like, I don't know, learning as they go, or like growing pains or something.
Yeah,
it will get better hopefully.
I'm looking through all the other things and seeing what actually else we want to talk about. I guess animals. We've talked about most things, but one interesting thing is that you did mention that they're wild and you tame them.
Mm-hmm.
To start with, it's kind of cool. It's a bit. I mean, it doesn't really make any sense, right? Because there aren't really wild cows.
Yeah.
But I kind of like it. It's kind of cool. It's
Yeah.
quite fun walking
It's
through
neat.
and just like, oh, there's an animal I see I've not had before.
Yeah,
It's
I
quite fun.
found a random alpaca,
Yeah,
and just I was just like, "Oh, I didn't know you existed." And I went and talked to it, and
yeah.
it was like, "You want to add it to your barn?" I was like, "Okay, fine. Sure, I got space. Come on in."
One thing that's annoying me about it is that I found a brown alpaca once, and I had no space in my barn,
Oh
and
no.
the shop to buy barns was closed.
Oh no.
I have not
That's
seen that
awful.
brown alpaca
I was going to say,
since,
does
and
it come back?
I think it does eventually, but I haven't seen it yet, and I'm
Yeah.
really sad about it.
I haven't delved too far into the like schedules for animals or anything. Like I'm sure that there's, like I've encountered the owl, which shows up at night, and I've encountered the squirrel and the fox, and I'm sure that there's some sort of schedule for when specific animals show up. I just haven't looked into it really.
Yeah,
It's
I've not really
definitely
been
like
paying
a
attention to that,
yeah, it's definitely a
but yeah,
background element right now as far as
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's probably something that if I get to the point where I'm like, yeah, let's complete everything, then I'll probably go in and do all of them. But yeah, I've done a
Hmm.
few to kind of get the idea of how the camera works, and it's fine. You don't seem to be able to befriend any of the wild animals in this one. You just
Right.
take pictures of them.
Yeah. You do get pets, but yeah, you can't. You can't.
Yes.
It's not
Yeah.
like One World where you could just tame a wild bear and then have that be your pet in your house.
Oh, so ridiculous.
uh.
The animal care I find is much nicer in this game than Harvest Moon One World, and I think is one of the best ones I've found. So
Hmm.
there aren't tools for milking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, and they show a little icon above them when they need pet brushed or when they have milk. You need to shear them or whatever, which is quite nice. So
Hmm.
you don't have to remember which ones you've already got milk from. They have a little. I really like that.
Yeah.
But it's quite nice just to go up to them and it's like, oh yeah, let me just do what I need to do. I don't need to choose a
I haven't
tool or
noticed.
whatever.
I'm assuming that they get sick, like they can get sick, like they have in
I
previous.
I wouldn't know because I would never let my animals get into the situation where they're getting sick.
I never have
So I wouldn't.
either. But I
I don't
know that
actually
they
know because you
sell animal
can't.
medicine in previous games. I just didn't notice
Yeah.
if it was in
So
this game or not.
what I
But
would say is that you cannot send them outside in the rain.
yeah.
Like it's just not possible. So
Hmm.
I'm actually probably leaning towards it might not exist.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious
Um,
because I saw that there's um it really seems like the only drawback to not I mean feed your animals, please. But the only drawback to not feeding them is that they just don't produce
yeah,
whatever their good is that they produce, like milk or
yeah,
wool or whatever.
yeah.
They have to be fed in order to produce those the next day. So it
Although
just
grazing actually works in this game.
oh yeah, yeah. If you let them out, then
Like you can actually put them out and they actually feed on themselves. There's also an auto feeder, which is nice. You unlock later on.
okay,
Um,
good. I
so
was hoping that was the case.
you can have silos full of grass and you can have an auto feeder that will automatically fill up the trough in
Thank
and
you
really
because
nice.
I
It's
don't
really
have that.
nice in that you can have multiple silos and you can when you put the auto feeder in, it will ask you which silo you want to get the food from.
Ah, that's great.
Really nice.
Yeah, that's great.
So
I
yeah,
don't have an auto feeder right now, and I'm about to hit my max for at least the first level of barn and coop, where it's 5 animals per,
yeah,
which is uh, the 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 feed bin is maxed at 10. At least for the small barn, it's
yeah,
maxed at 10
yeah.
fodder. So
It's 20 for the larger one.
okay,
So
yeah,
I think
because every day
it's double the maximum animals you can
and
have.
then double the amount of feed that you can put in the bin.
Yeah, that's what. Sorry, yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry, the
Yeah,
amount of feed you can put in is double the number of animals you're allowed.
sure.
So you can
Yeah.
have 5 in
So
the small
every other
one.
day you gotta go and, it's just
Yeah,
when you have like limited space. I have my
yeah,
bag fully upgraded at this point, where
yeah,
I have all 4 tiers or whatever.
yeah,
But it's still having to have my fodder in one of those spots constantly. It feels like, because I'm I'm having to feed them every other day at the very, or refill the feed bin every other day at the very least,
yeah,
because there's it's very limited, and I have
yeah,
enough animals that they're draining it pretty quickly. So
yeah. I mean,
I was
you
curious how
could,
quickly it would be before I got to an auto feeder. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward
I
to that.
think, I think it's like animal care level 5 or 6. It's not
Okay,
too high. It's not level 10.
gotcha.
Um, what I would say is that you can store fodder in the chests. So you could put a chest next to your barn, so you don't have to have it in your bag
Yeah,
all times.
I did that for a while. That's how I was storing it.
Right.
But I just, in the interest of like streamlining my day, I would just
Fair
leave it in
enough.
my
Fair enough.
inventory to
Yeah.
like go in,
I,
do my thing, leave, and
yeah.
not use the
I
chest.
I would say that based on that, I agree with. I know you haven't said this, but from what you've said, I kind of I feel like it would be nice to have one more upgrade to the bag. It just feels like it's
Yes,
when I'm
I agree.
fully maxed out, I'm still there's a lot of things I want to have around. Like I always have one level, one of my a quarter of my bag is always tools, right? Because you don't want to put them away. It's
Mm-hmm.
annoying. And
Oh,
then
should
one,
clarify too that there is a specific tool bag where you can, it's 9 spots. You
yes,
can dump all your tools in there if you want, but then
you just can't use them.
you can't use them, and then you have to manually go to the tool bag to pull them
Yeah,
out, which
I,
does feel kind of annoying. So what I've done, and it
yeah,
sounds like maybe you've done too, is I just designate one line of my 4 lines to
yeah,
just having my
yeah,
tools out at all times.
yeah. The only time I put them in my tool bag, if you will, is when I really far down the mine and I'm filled my bag up and I need that last thing. I will
Mm-hmm.
put one in my tool bag. But yeah, no, it's so I always have one full of tools and I always have one full of ore. So I'm always keeping my ore on me because I need to deal with that.
Yeah.
So like half of my bag is taken up 100% of the time, and I feel like with my fully maxed out bag, I shouldn't constantly be full. You know, it's just
Right.
really annoying. Just
Yeah.
one more level, I think would balance it out more.
Right. Yeah. The daily cycle, at least for where I'm at, it definitely, I definitely tend to go through those spaces very quickly. Um,
Yeah.
and I still refuse. It's very convenient to have the tool bag, but the way that the UI handles navigating the menu, like the inventory menu, is just inconvenient enough that I just don't want to put them in the tool bag and take them back out.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
like super easy to get to that. Like you have to go all the way through. It
Yeah.
sounds like such a silly complaint, but like it's just like inconvenient just enough that it's, when you're doing the same thing every day, or you're doing the same tasks,
Yeah. No, no, I
it's
agree.
it's just inconvenient enough. But the fact that the tool bag even exists is great.
Yeah.
It's nice
Um.
that you have the ability to say, "Oh, I need this space
Yes.
that I don't have currently. I can
I
pull one of my
wouldn't.
tools away." So
Yeah, I wouldn't say get rid of the feature, uh, but I don't use it very often.
yeah, I would agree.
It's an interesting one.
You have a leash now too, which is nice. You were talking about animal care
Yes.
and like for the pets. There's one thing that I don't understand that I'll get to, but one of your tools that you get is a leash, so that when you have a pet, which you get with your first like house upgrade, you get the ability to have a pet, and then you have to go and buy the pet. It's not like previous games where you start with like a pet, or you meet a pet and befriend it, and then it comes and stays
Yeah.
with you. You just go to the store and buy a pet.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them. There's a pretty big selection of pets that you can get pretty early on.
Yep. You can unlock a little wolf as well,
Yeah, yeah.
which
And they
is
had
fun.
a border collie that is all
Yep.
black with white on the chest, which is exactly what my dog is. So that was very nice to be able to like have my dog in the game. Um, but they do have one of the tools is a leash, so that you can take your pet for a walk, and basically all it does is it just has it auto follow you um, over the duration of having them leashed. There's some weird buggy things if you've got fences and stuff where they just get stuck and can't get
Always
themselves out of it. But they do seem to, rather than just like they get stuck and that's it. If you go far enough to a certain point, then they'll just like teleport to you, which
teleport.
is fine.
It's the best way to deal with that sort of thing.
Yeah. My question though is, I don't know if you've messed with the pets at all, but I bought
No,
a
I haven't.
ball that you apparently can play with your pet with, but I don't
Right.
know how to use it at all. I haven't found out how to use it.
I've not done it. I literally have not bought a pet, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm sure that I will figure it out eventually. It's not priority. I usually give my pet I pet my pet, I give it a treat in the morning, and then leash it, and then we go about our day, and that's it.
Yeah. Is I presume you've tried highlighting it in the bag at the bottom and pressing Y.
I did,
presume
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So that's why I would have assumed it was. Speaking of tools, I guess just a quick overview. So they have a charge attack, a
Hmm.
charge attack,
I
charge
mean,
use,
that's
and a single use. That's great. I love it.
yeah, it's really
Especially
nice.
when you upgrade the not only does the charge give you more force, but it also does more area. So like at the top level of the hammer and the axe is like a huge area. So like if you go into a really dense forest with the axe and you hold down, you're cutting down like 8 trees at once. It makes you
Yeah.
feel amazing. It's like
Yeah.
I'm like a god here. It's great.
It is a charge attack at that point.
Yeah.
It's just
Attacking all these trees.
huge barbarian swing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's really nice for clearing out. I mean, once you get to the later areas, it's pretty dense for
Yeah.
a lot
Really.
of it when you're trying to clear things out, and yeah, it's really nice to be able to clear a lot in one shot. I have not noticed. I mean, I haven't really done much mining outside of like what I need. Just for progression's sake, but I did notice that by upgrading my hammer, it things that were more difficult to like, it doesn't seem like there's ever anything that it will say at any point in the game you can't do this with your current hammer. It just is like harder to do it. So like if there's a tree
Yeah.
that is just like a you you should have a better axe to cut it down.
Yeah.
You can still try to cut it down. It's just going to take
Yeah.
100 hits
I
before
think
it'll
that's correct.
drop. So I noticed that with the hammer that, when I was in the mine, as I was upgrading it, I could, it would take less hits to break certain
Yeah.
rocks. But you're saying it does also have like an area effect too with that charge?
Yeah. It
Oh,
does.
that's nice.
Yeah. Which is great if you come into one of these levels with loads of rocks.
Yeah.
You can do it's not as large an area as the axe, which is a bit annoying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's you can get quite a lot. I'm at the top level of the hammer and it's very pleasing. The only thing that takes multiple hits now is the orichalcum or whatever it's called, the top level of ore.
Sure.
That
Yeah.
takes, I think, 4 hits with the top. So it's still a lot of work, that one is. But everything else, literally everything else, is just 1 hit
Yeah.
now, which is
Yeah. That is nice.
Yeah.
There's moles. I don't know if that's.
Yeah. Oh, have you been down far in the third mine?
I have not even gone into the third mine
Okay.
yet.
So yeah, there are 3 mines in this game.
Mhm.
The first one is 10 levels deep, and just the most you can get is iron. I think from that you get stone. And
Okay.
the second one is 30 levels deep, and you can also get silver from that. And then final one is 50 levels deep, and you can get gold and orichalcum from it as well.
Okay.
You can get the gold at any level. You can get the orichalcum from level 30 and down. And there are, in the second mine, there are moles which pop up, and if you walk, damage you. In the third mine, there are two different kinds of moles that are more powerful. The first one has like a 2 square size pressure wave when they pop up that they can damage you with.
Okay.
And the ones at the bottom, the level 30 to 50, they're like electric ones, so they can get you really from 3 squares away. If you're within 3 squares of one of them, they pop up an electric,
Huh.
which is on some levels really difficult, because like there's some levels where there are 3 of them and they can all pop up right next to you at the same time. It's really weird. Yeah, they're fine. They're just kind of like a monster that's just in your.
Sure.
They
Yeah.
only really become an issue in the last 20 levels of the third mine, which is where you get the orichalcum, which is even in like level 45 and 46 and whatever, it's still very rare. Like I think you get guaranteed one on level 50, but other than that, you can theoretically get none of it other than that. And it's
Yeah.
really frustrating how rare it is, because there are multiple times I've maybe done this like 5 or 6 times, gone down to level 50 and had maybe 3 of them in total.
Interesting.
So like I currently in my inventory have like 500 gold and 10 orichalcum. It is insane how rare it is.
Interesting. I wonder
And
why.
you need fifth. I don't know why. And it's really annoying because there's an area in the third. There's a bit in the third area which is like basically like a greenhouse that you need to unlock. The hydrophonic or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It's basically a greenhouse. But you have to use 50 orichalcum ingots, which means you have to have 500. No, 250.
250. Yeah, because it's 5 per ingot.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so you have to have 250 ore. I have had a total of like 30, and I have I have had thousands of gold. It's just so hard to get. And you can actually, what's really nice is if you ship any of the ores, you can then buy them at the shop, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
But the orichalcum costs 50,000 per ore. So to get one ingot
Unrealistic.
would be 250,000.
Yeah.
And you need 50 of them.
Time to pop into seedling mode. Get all that bonus cash.
12.5 million to buy orichalcum that you need for that. And so it's just like
so much.
It just feels a little bit too rare.
Yeah.
You know?
I wonder, I don't know if you know, but I know that in previous games you could pause and save at certain levels in the mines and then reload. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
You can't. Have you tried saving in the mines?
No, I haven't.
It's just disabled.
Oh, interesting.
You can't save at all in the mine.
I was gonna say maybe they made it rarer because they're aware that people exploit it that way. But if they've removed the ability to exploit it too, then I guess it's kind of unfortunate that everything's just that rare.
It's actually not that difficult when you get to the high level and you have a decent. So I'm at the max stamina as well, so you can double the number of stamina hearts you have. And obviously, as you upgrade things and as you go up the skill levels, everything becomes much easier to do. So it's actually really easy to get down to the bottom of it, give or take. It's just time that's the issue.
Sure.
But yeah, like it's so rare that it's so difficult, and you have to take a whole day out if you're getting down to level 50 on. And it's really annoying to go spend a whole day and take like 10 meals, which will be enough when you're properly leveled up. 10 meals to get you down to the bottom level, and come away with, I'm kidding you not, 8 ore. And you're just like, this does not, especially when I got like 300 gold in that same time. Like it just doesn't feel worth it. Why is it so rare?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's literally just. I mean, I always wonder how much of this is just like a balancing issue that like is gonna get adjusted.
Possibly. I would be surprised, but
Yeah, I would be surprised too for something like that. But who knows? I mean, maybe if
Yeah.
it's people gripe about it enough. If they're willing to change the food animation, I guess maybe they're willing to balance out ore rarity. Uh
Uh, yeah,
yeah, I need to
possibly.
do more mining. I just haven't, you know. I get what I need to get and I'm mostly
Yeah,
focused on I that's one of the things that I really liked about Stardew 2 is that like the layout and pathing and everything was
yeah,
part of my favorite
yeah,
like aspects of the game. So now that I can do that in a Story of Seasons, I'm spending a lot of time doing that and enjoying it.
yeah. That makes sense. Where my
So
focus is always just upgrading everything as quickly as possible,
yeah,
and then doing other stuff. So yeah, that's why I've been everywhere in the mines.
I did unlock the third area. I haven't done
Nice.
much in it. I saw the um I saw a horse and I saw that there are
Yeah,
buildings there that I can fix up. I just haven't done that yet.
yeah, yeah,
I'm working on that. I'm trying to get the materials for it. I'm sure this will all be a lot easier once I can multi-stack,
yeah. Looking forward to.
uh, but yeah, I mean, otherwise, it's um, the mining experience feels very much like the mining experience in games.
Yeah, it's
It's not,
fine. It's nice.
anything.
I never liked the one in Trio of Towns because it was literally just here's a node you can hit it five. I didn't.
Yeah, yeah,
So this is much more like other mining and definitely like the Stardew one a lot
right.
and yeah, I like it. It's nice.
I am kind of. I'm curious and I'm not as to why they are like the addition of the moles, and it sounds like these maybe like harder moles is I guess maybe uh they're like compromise for putting enemies in the mines
Yeah,
like they did in Stardew, like actually having things to fight. Um, I don't know that I would want that in Story of Seasons, and I also feel
I
like they probably because they also have Rune Factory, they're kind of like we'll
yeah.
keep that aspect for Rune Factory.
Yeah, I would say to them if they didn't want to do it, just don't do it. It feels a bit weird,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's necessary to do it. It doesn't. I think the Stardew one is kind of fun in the way that it's done, and like this one just feels a little bit like okay, cool. You've got three enemies that are just like the second enemy is just the first one, but with
Hmm.
hair, and then the third one is oh now it's blue. Like it's
Then
not
it's
really
not
that
like
inventive.
super challenging either. It's just like maybe
No.
like a slight annoyance.
Well, wait till you're down on level 45 of the
Okay,
third mine.
good point.
It's
Yeah,
challenging then, but this is the problem. It's challenging, but there's no payoff
yeah.
because
Well,
there
so
isn't
they
a lot of
drop.
orichalcum.
Yeah, they drop at least the ones in the first mine. They drop or the second mine, I guess. They drop
Yes,
like treasure that you get
they do. They
appraised at
do.
the museum. I don't know
Sure.
what they drop in the later mine. Do
They
they drop?
can drop the rarest of the treasures, which is fine. But and this is incredibly annoying. I don't know whether you've come across this or not. They sometimes just drop a single clay.
Oh. I've had them drop like like one stone or whatever, or like
Yeah,
coal, which I'm like, okay, I thank you, I
it's the
guess. I don't know,
worst. It's the worst.
but yeah, I haven't
So
had
bad.
them drop um just clay, which that sounds even less useful than. Although I guess if you're making bricks, maybe
And you
Um,
can't make a brick from a single clay.
yeah,
Takes three clay to make a brick.
yeah,
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I like the mines. I could do without the moles. They're just a bit.
yeah,
But I guess there's a few other things just kind of quickly to go through. That there's not probably not. The fishing mini game's different. I kind of like it.
yeah. It's
Um,
similar again to Stardew in that it's
but
like
also different in
yeah,
that like
in like a very
have
specific
you
way.
played have you played Spiritfarer?
I have not, no.
Okay. Well, for
That's
listeners
the
who've
like
listened to the Spiritfarer episode,
side that's like on the boats and stuff, like
yeah,
side
yeah.
side
It's a very
scroll.
similar one to that, where basically you're like you hold down A to reel it in, and you have to let go at certain points to let it calm down, and then you can pull it. So it's not in. I've never a fan of the Stardew one because it's like very definitely like you need to keep it within a certain level, and it's really stressful, and like you have to do it can jump about a lot. I don't like it. Whereas this one I think works quite well, and it's just hold it until it goes red, let go. Wait till it goes blue, hold it again.
Yeah.
I like that much better.
Mm-hmm.
Cooking is fine, but why is there no bulk cooking? It takes forever to cook stuff. It's very annoying.
Yeah,
And
you just
also,
spend the whole day cooking, half hour at a time.
I presume it's because of realism for some reason, but like cooking works differently from the makers in that so if it takes 30 minutes to do a thing, it fades out, plays a small cutscene, fades back in, and you have the thing. Whereas all the makers, they take a specific amount of time to do things. You press a button, it does the thing. Why
Yeah.
can't it be like the makers? And I get it's probably because it's like, oh, well, you're doing the cooking. It doesn't just magically cook. Well, it's like, well, these makers are magically doing things as well. Why can't the cooking just be magic as well? Like, I'm not in it for the realism. It's not
Well,
I-
you don't want to teach kids that they can just turn on the stove and then walk away for an hour, come back whenever they feel like it's time to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just annoying.
I'm curious to see what their solution is for whatever it is they said they're fixing as far as like timing for cooking. Bulk cooking would be nice. It would be nice to have like servings that you can like, if you cook one thing, it makes 4 servings, and then you have 4 of those in a stack or whatever.
If I have 10 eggs, let me make 10 fried eggs without clicking it a billion times.
Yep.
Whatever, I'm making mayonnaise with them instead.
Or just, like Harvest Moon One World, you could just take 10 eggs and make a 10 egg plate. That doesn't really change the effectiveness.
I don't understand it.
You just put 10 eggs on a plate and that's it.
Yeah, it's fine. The map is interesting and kind of fine, but what I don't understand is you can't select it has opening times for everything on the map, but it's a separate screen. So instead of like, so the way that maps tend to work in these games is like you've got a cursor on the map and you press left and right and up and down to go between the different buildings, and it'll tell you what building that is and when the opening times are. No, not in this one. You have to press a button. It takes the map away and it shows you a key. Bear in mind, you can't see the map. Now you can just see the key, and it tells you what each of these are and when they open. And that might be fine for some people, but people might know who listen to the podcast that I have no visual memory. So trying to map the map to the key is basically impossible for me. I can't do it because you can't see them at the same time.
Yeah.
It's dreadful.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought in Doraemon they did that too. They added that where you could like check the times for things on the map. Was that not the case? Seems weird that they would remove that again.
I can't remember.
And just in general, it's like the map is I don't know. I feel like we're at a point where maps should be like interactive maps should be a really common thing.
Yeah, it's just annoying.
Even just being able to like see, like you can see where people like generally the area that people are in.
Yeah,
which has been a consistent thing with Story of Seasons that it's like, it works. It's better than nothing, I guess. But my problem with it is that it's like it's always they're generally in this area, but then you have to like find where they are. Not like this is the specific building that they're in, or like this is the. It's like this is the area, like the area of the town.
I think it does. It does put them on the building if they're in the building.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Well, if it does, that's good. One of the couple times that I needed to look, it just looked like it was like, oh, this is the area of the town they're in. But
yeah, I think if they're outside, it's much more vague.
Okay.
And part of the issue is obviously they can move, so they can change. You can look at where they are, go to that area, and now they're not there anymore.
Right.
So that doesn't help. But
yeah.
I think it does show you them on the building if they're in the building. I'm pretty.
Well, my mistake then, and good on them for that, because that
wrong.
used to be not the case for a lot of the Story of Seasons game. It was just like general location.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. I have failed because I haven't got married before this podcast, so
Oh
apologies. I can't
no.
tell you much
What
about
have you
it.
done?
Other than uh, that you can marry anyone, so that's it's good
As it should be.
as it should be. No complaints there.
Take notes,
Um,
Harvest Moon.
yeah, I'm working on my relationship with Reina, and just
Oh, that's who I'm working on too. I
she's great because
actually
she accepts basically the most her loved items are all the treasures.
mhm.
So like you get a bunch of stuff, you go get her to tell you what they all are, and then you just give her one of them and sell the
Yes.
rest. It's
It's
great.
great. It's perfect. Streamlined. Uh
Yeah.
I was actually working on this is silly. I was working on friendship with what's her name? Beth? Maybe?
Right.
She's the other girl in the museum, not
Oh
realizing
yeah.
that she wasn't a romanceable NPC.
Yeah, there
I was
doesn't
just
seem to be
like,
a clear indication, does there?
so there is once you get to it, so there the hearts that in the like friendship tab are they're orange for everybody, and then they're pink for people that are romanceable. But you have to
Uh,
start filling in the hearts in order to find that out. Uh,
okay.
but
It's also not clear.
I found out by I was I mean she seems like she would be a romanceable NPC, right? Like she's about
Yeah.
this looks generally the same age as everybody else that's romanceable.
Yeah.
She's just s- not like a not like a story character, I guess, or like a really specific like specific to the storyline or anything.
Yeah.
She's just a character. So I was like, okay, that's who I'm gonna romance. Um, and it wasn't until I got to like the third heart or so that there I had a heart event with her, and I came to the museum, and she was talking to, I think, Lars about like a date that they had, and I was like, oh, that's weird. I wonder if like I'm working on
Ah,
like stealing
so
her from Lars or so,
yeah.
like
So
home wrecking this situation, but
yeah.
then
So it
I
looks
found
like
out that she's not romanceable.
they are Beth and Lars are in a relation.
Yeah, which was not
I mean,
clear until I
I
was 3 or 4 hearts
look
into.
look. I'm still looking for a game where you can romance anybody in the game, including people. Right? So I'm totally fine with
Yeah,
the idea of stealing.
yeah,
Um,
just open. If we're gonna open it up, let's really open it up.
but having said that, I also think if you make a game like that, there should be at least one asexual person, just someone who,
Yeah,
no matter what you do, will never be in a relationship with you. But it's not because they're in another relationship, because
yeah,
that's not, people are not valued by the relationships.
yes, I agree.
Uh,
I feel like it's probably going to be a good amount of time until we see like m- maybe purposefully like an asexual character,
yeah,
or the ability to have like a poly relationship or something like that in a game
it's
like this, but I mean, we're still at a
it's
point where they're like not explicitly saying that it's marriage. It's like, what
yeah.
is it, like friendship?
Well, no, it says it's friendship in Japan, but in English it's marriage.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah,
That's where the confusion comes.
got it.
So it's culturally they still don't feel like they can call it marriage in Japan for some.
Right.
I don't know whether I don't think there's anything stopping them actually doing it. Like I know that same sex marriage isn't legal in Japan, but I don't think there's that law extends to video games.
Right.
Uh I think it's just
It's
they
just
think that people won't accept it sort of thing.
trying
But
to
who
dodge
knows?
the criticism or whatever,
Yeah.
the blowback. Yeah. Yeah, so I
But
think
yeah,
maybe once we get to a point where that's like not an issue from the
yes, maybe we
country
can
that
work
the
on other things
developers are
then.
in, then yeah, we can work on poly
Yeah.
relationships and
Yeah.
asexuality and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
It's just because people who aren't relationshipable,
Hmm.
whatever the word would be in games, it's always because they're in another relationship, or they were in a relationship and their partner's dead, or they're divorced or whatever. Like it's never like just they're single and they want to be single.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
never a thing in these games. And why?
It's that small town life, I guess. Everybody's got to be with somebody to feel some kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I guess it's like it's initially it wasn't like super obvious who was a romanceable NPC, and I guess
Yeah.
maybe that's like part of, I don't know
The
if
challenge?
that can be changed with, if there's going to be adjustment to that with how they're changing communication with
I
NPCs,
doubt it. I think it's
as
just
far as
extra
like
dialogue.
showing you, because it used to be that like you could see, I feel like it you would see heart progression on dialogue boxes specifically with characters that you could romance.
So in Trio of Towns, the way that it worked, I keep going back to that because that was the most recent
Mm-hmm.
new main series game. It was you saw heart progression for everybody on dialogue, but romanceable characters had a flower on above their name.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And that's how they did it for. I think that's how they did it for the Friends of Mineral Town remake too.
Yeah. So, but that again is still weird. Like it's still not clear until you know it. That's still something you have to be told. Like
Right.
the color of the hearts, it's something you have to be told.
Mm-hmm.
And they've still not managed to implement something that actually allows you to know. Like, for example, in Stardew, I'm pretty sure does it not say in words on the screen whether you can, like, I'm pretty sure if you're in the list of characters and your relationship status with or your heart points with them, it says whether they are romanceable or not, doesn't it?
I'm not
Like in
100%
words.
sure. Um, I feel like it definitely was more obvious in Stardew who was a romanceable character.
It does. It says single underneath their name.
Got it. Okay.
That's like they make it very clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're then back to the people are romanceable because they're single, which is an issue, but
Right.
whatever.
Of course.
At least they're making it clear.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. I don't know why they don't do that. I guess maybe they're just like that's how they've always done it, and they haven't really
Yeah.
considered. But it's definitely weird to like put. Not that this is it means anything beyond like. It feels weird to say I put a lot of time into this relationship and there's nothing that like came of it, but like, it
Oh,
feels really
Micah,
terrible to
Micah,
say that.
Micah. I think you're
However,
about to be cancelled here.
for the sake of the game, it was weird to like put a lot of
Yes.
my in-game resources towards trying to
Yeah.
develop that relationship really quickly and then not have anything,
Yeah.
find out that I can't even marry that person. So
I don't disagree with you.
yeah, but now
Um,
I'm working on Reina, and so
Yep.
and it's I'm assuming that you have had some of the hard events with her.
I have.
I
I'm at
just
5 hearts now.
I just had the second one, I think, where the first
Right.
one is you walk into the museum and she's excited about an exhibit, and then the Gloria who runs the museum is like, "Oh, we canceled that," and that's it.
Yeah.
Pretty,
It's a bit, the story is pretty slim in terms of characters, and it's
yeah.
just because it's slim and spread across like 10 heart events,
Hmm.
they're all very weird and short, but it's fine.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't play these games for the story. If they have a nice story, then it's an addition. Like Stardew did really nicely, but it's not like I wouldn't have liked Stardew had it not had those deep stories with
yeah.
people. It was just a nice addition.
Hmm.
There's
There
not
is
much to say
some
about it really.
level of like there's your I mean you are a pioneer as far as Olive
Yes.
Town goes. Like the name has meaning. uh
Yeah.
and there is a like pioneering level. Like
You
you're trying to get people to come to like you're trying to get
yes.
tourists,
Yeah.
and they do show up in the form of
I,
like unnamed NPCs that just kind of wander around.
yeah. Yeah. I would say, yeah, the overall story, I feel like is very much similar to Stardew. We're basically trying to revitalize this
Hmm.
town, basically.
Yeah.
And it's not complicated, but it's a fun little additional thing, and it gives you some more quests.
Yeah. There's not
It's fine.
really any kind of element of like corporate overlords that Stardew
No,
had, but
no,
there's
no. It's much more like just people don't come here as tourists anymore.
yeah, yeah.
But
And
yeah,
you have a pioneering meter too, which is like a thing that I don't know if you saw that or not. It's like pioneering
I haven't actually.
percentage.
No. Right.
In one of the menus, it says like gives you a percentage.
There's
for,
so many menus.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that just means it's like how developed Olive Town is for you percentage wise, like how much you've put into it to develop it further, and I guess maybe kind of like a meter to be able to say how far you are in the like main quest, but
Oh, I see. Pioneering progress.
yeah,
86%.
yeah,
Not bad.
you're pretty close. I was at I think 50%
Right.
the last time I checked.
Museum completion 24%. You can tell I'm not focusing on photos or fish. Total profits. Oh, here we go. Total profits. What's your total profits so far?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have the game open currently.
I am 6,000 short of 1 million. So
That's pretty good. Yeah,
I'm
in
pretty
that,
happy
like,
with my progress in 2 weeks, to be honest with you.
early stages of like early stages of figuring out crops where
Yeah.
I what I tend to do is I find the crop that grows the fastest for that season,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
I grow everything once and then just stock up on
Yeah.
the one that grows the fastest.
Yeah.
Specifically because you can get, it change the when you grow one of everything and ship one of everything, then it changes what, like, you can just go to the grocery store and buy those things.
Yeah.
Then, which is nice. But it just feels like, every season is kind of like get the things and then speed run the rest of the crops to get as much as I can done. But
Yeah.
just a really quick thing that I was curious your thoughts on.
Go for it.
I have had a couple of the town events now.
Yeah.
Where they have, the festivals. The last one that I did was the summer festival where you're like hitting a hammer to launch barrels into the ocean, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't really know how else to describe that. And then the one before that was the dog race.
Yeah.
And then before that was an egg hunt for Easter, but there was no
interactivity on that.
Right, there was nothing. There was no actual egg hunt. It was just like a cutscene of you looking for eggs, which I thought was weird.
That was a bit weird. I was confused by that.
I don't know if there have been other like holiday events like that you've experienced that I haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah, so there was a lantern one which had no interactivity where you're just setting off a lantern. That's fine. I think the egg hunt one was weird because it feels like it should have interactivity, whereas all the other ones that felt like they should have interactivity did, and the ones that didn't. Right, like the rest of them felt right, whereas that egg hunt one just felt.
It was confusing to me because I was like, when I experienced it, I was like, oh, I guess there's just no interactivity on these things. It's just cutscenes. So I assumed that maybe going forward that was just going to be that.
Yeah, race.
Yeah, and then the dog race had something, and then the summer festival, I was like, oh, I'm sure that's probably just going to be a cutscene too. But then it's like, oh, there's a strongman competition. I'm like, oh, okay.
What I would say is the dog race was really nice because you didn't have to own a dog; you could rent a dog to do it, which is good.
Yeah, that is nice.
But yeah, the festivals are fine.
Yeah,
they're nothing special. I know that some people were complaining in that there's not enough. I thought it was fine.
I think
I actually missed a couple.
It's the
because I forgot about them.
It's the it's always kind of been for me the like one day a month to catch up on talking to people that I haven't talked to. To advance communication just a little bit, like.
Yeah. Well, I think that's. I mean, we could spend hours just talking about every little detail.
Yeah. All in all,
I guess we can.
Very happy with it. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah. Well, here's my question. We every time should people play this or not?
I think so. I really like it. I'm very very happy with the, like we said at the start, like the competition of Stardew Valley has given way to a lot of really neat developments for a Story of Seasons game. And while I
Yeah.
love Stardew Valley, there is something about the like charm to Story of Seasons / Harvest Moon that I like seeing those gameplay features in this universe or in this style.
Yeah. I would say that up till this point, the game I would suggest that people play is Stardew.
Yeah.
And now I think it depends
Mm-hmm.
what you play. I think if people have played Stardew and haven't played another farming, this is the next game. I think it's a great game. If you haven't played a Harvest Moon / Story of Seasons game, I think it's a great one to start with. I predicted this when I was talking to Bev about them having not played a Story of Seasons game before, and I was like, I feel like Pioneers of Olive Town is the one to go with, and I stand by that. I think it's a great game. I'm not going to say it is better or worse than Stardew. I think they are both as good as each other,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of it might come down to personal preference about whether you prefer graphics of one or the other, or whether you really want to go deep into some people's backstories. I think Stardew would focus. If you want more of a kind of almost exploration game, but it feels a lot more like you're building up an empire more than Stardew. Then I would go for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be my thought. I think definitely if you play farming games, play it. It's a good game.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely I think up until this point too, as far as Switch goes,
Mm.
I have always been kind of defaulted to Doraemon being the like, it's a really good starter farming
Yeah,
game that looks really
yeah,
good. But I do think that this is like it's much more feature rich than, well, I
yeah,
still love the art style of Doraemon Story of Seasons, and it is probably gonna be my favorite for a long time to come.
yeah.
This is much more feature rich of a game, and well worth it in my opinion. This is what
Agreed.
I wanted out of a Story of Seasons game after having played Stardew Valley. I was
Yeah,
just kind of waiting for when they would start to catch up to what Stardew had done as far as innovation in the genre, and I'm happy that we're finally seeing it.
yeah. I mean, essentially, this is the first game they've made, the first main series game they've made since Stardew Valley came out.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, it's not because Stardew Valley came out in January 2016 and Trio of Towns came out in June 2016 or in 2017 outside of Japan.
Sure.
Um, but obviously, they wouldn't have had any time to react to this.
Yeah,
Like
this
that
is the
game was
first
basically done when Stardew came out.
development cycle
So
since Stardew.
exactly,
Yeah.
and so yeah, they've clearly they've looked at Stardew and they've looked at what works well. They've looked at how they can integrate things in. They've not just copied it,
Mm-hmm.
they've adapted things and they've kind of moved with the times. And Trio of Towns felt a lot like kind of it was at the end of a console cycle. It felt a little bit weird. The graphics were a little bit weird from my point of view. I think it went too far into the 3D aspect of things.
Mm-hmm.
um did you ever play Trio of Towns much?
Yeah, not much, but yeah, I played it.
Yeah,
I
like
didn't get.
it all just felt a bit weird to me.
Yeah, I would agree
Whereas
with
this
that.
feels much more like they've integrated the nice 3D-ness of it, but gone back to the traditional, kind of 45-degree angle onto it. Like it's much more, and there's much more freedom to it, customizability to it. Like I like it, and they've integrated, as you say, a lot of Stardew and Animal Crossing.
Mm-hmm. And
I like.
if I'm not mistaken, there's like more stuff to come too, right?
Yes, there
There's a lot
are
of
a
like
bunch of DLC packs.
announced DLC stuff.
Yeah, mostly it is small areas where other people from previous games will be.
Okay.
Um, there's also some cosmetic stuff as well, but yeah,
I did
I have purchased the whole pack.
I did have to get it for that Mineral Town outfit. I had to, you know.
Yeah.
You can, yeah, there's a lot that you can get separately, it seems like. Like you can just buy things
Yeah.
separately, but obviously you're saving a lot if you just get
Yeah.
um
The season pass.
the season pass, yeah. But one of the things that's listed in the eShop is like Olive Town Mystery Files is one of the things it looks like on the 29th of this month is when that will be available, and I'm curious to see what that's going to be like cuz I do like my mysteries. So,
I haven't seen anything about that. I'll need to investigate that.
yeah, there's a
I hadn't seen
couple
that listed in the list of, because they've detailed all of the DLC in.
it's weird that there's a lot of there's a lot of items listed in the eShop, but they all have like a placeholder image.
Yes.
That doesn't
Yeah.
have really anything that would be descriptive of it, but right now it's like animal attire for the protagonists and for marriage candidates so that you can, I don't know, dress up as animals together. And then for locations, it's got Windswept Falls, Terracotta Oasis, and Twilight Isle.
Those are the areas with people from.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how they integrate them in, because they all have different art styles and stuff. So I presume they're going to modify them to the current art style, but it'll be interesting to see how that happens.
Yeah, and then there's just it's those locations, and then there's something it says the legendary Sprite Dance and Olive Town Mystery Files. So I'm curious to see what those are going to be too. But it looks like at least once a month for the next 4 months or so, there's something new that's going to be added if you have the expansion pass, which is pretty neat.
Yep.
So it's exciting.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll update people when they come out and exactly what. Maybe we'll do another episode once they're all out talking about the deal. We'll see how that.
Would be fun. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Micah, for joining me once again.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It has been a pleasure, as usual.
Always a pleasure.
I have enjoyed this game, and yeah, we'll see what happens next time.
Yeah.
Micah, for those who aren't already aware, where can people find you on the?
Pretty much just Twitter at this point. At Micah the Brave, MICAH the Brave. That's I'm on other things too, and if you type my name if you type that into pretty much any social media platform, I'm sure I will pop up there. But I only really use Twitter. I don't have time or energy for more than that, really. So, but yeah, I post a lot of art and stuff on there. So,
yeah, you're going through your Monster Hunter stuff just now.
I am, yeah. It's fun.
Looking good. I have no idea what they are, but they look great.
Well, that's all that matters, I guess, right? As long as
they look great and you're enjoying yourself. So
yeah,
that's what. You can find me on Twitter at the ScottBot. Scott has 1 T. You can find the podcasts on Twitter at THSPod. You can also email us from our website, harvestseason.club. And also on there you can find links to other things, including our Patreon, if you wish to financially support us. Thank you for those who do. And thank you for those who don't, but still listen to the podcast and or share it with people. All of these things are helpful very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until next time, have a good harvest.
The Harvest Season is created by Rochelle Delaney and Al McKinley, with support from our pro farmer level patrons, Kevin and Stuart. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode. Thanks for listening.
Now, I am not going to go sell